Yo, your boy's been wilding out, man.
Who?
Pop. He's been on a mission ever since Suge bailed him out of jail.
First off, touch your chick in the click you claim. West side, when we ride, come equipped with game.
I just want to send a shout out to Faith. Hey girl, stay and Bad Boy Records.
I know what I'm doing. I'm destroying her. Life, I'm f***ing them in the game. I'm destroying her.
You claim to be a player, but I bust your wife. We bust on Bad Boys, brothers touch for life.
It's fake, huh?
Big, I'm doing an interview.
I gotta find about it like this. You huh? Let me talk to you.
Check it out, guns I bust 'em. Problems with my wife, don't discuss them.
When Tupac came to LA and joined Death Row following his release from prison on October 12, 1995, he found a new family to support and strengthen him. People that wouldn't quote-unquote drop like a sack of potatoes when he needs help. Death Row and the Mob Piru welcomed him with open arms, took him under their wing like a little brother, gave him support, protection, and everything he ever wanted from the thug life movement he left behind. He started to surround himself with real gangsters and gang members while going to war with the people who quote-unquote set him up or knew about the setup. Puffy, Biggie, Bad Boy Records, the people who shot him, those who plotted the shooting, and also the people involved in the assault case. Those were now his enemies. Tupac created a new alias for himself called Machiavelli, after studying the teachings of the political advisor and political theorist Niccolo Machiavelli. He read his book The Prince while he was in prison, and started calling himself Machiavelli the Don, similar to how Biggie called himself the Don when he embraced the mafioso style after the release of his first album. Don is hereby a term for the head of a mafia family. And now Tupac is coming for Biggie's spot, wanting to dethrone him and become the Don himself. On the book cover of The Prince, Pac saw Machiavelli put up a W hand sign. He then took that and used it to represent his allegiance to the West Coast. Pac was fascinated with Machiavelli's ideas, like for example him suggesting that immoral acts are justified if they can help achieve political glory. A good leader, in Machiavelli's opinion, isn't someone that's good, friendly and kind, but someone who knows how to defend, enrich and bring honor to his people and states, even by taking dark and immoral measures, using the most effective methods even if they're cruel and evil, disregarding other people's feelings and destroying opposers to achieve goals by all means necessary. That was the type of leader Tupac wanted to become when he came out of prison. He was done playing the nice guy that tries to fight for everybody's rights. He was done empowering women, making political songs about racial inequality, trying to unite the thugs from every ghetto, and just making everybody happy. He understood that kindness doesn't bring you anywhere. Felt like he got stabbed in the back by the same people he was fighting for. I mean, he got shot by black people while thinking that no black man would ever shoot him, since he's always fighting for their rights, just like he did for black women. But then he got accused of assault and thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit, destroyed by the media and stabbed in the back by the same people he considered brothers and part of the thug life movement. That's why thug life was dead to him, and he wanted to start over. It was time for a new approach, one that may be more radical and relentless, but more effective. And in order for him to get on top, Biggie had to go. Exit Tupac, enter Machiavelli.
When I was in jail, Bad Boy, Puffy was the crown for Don. Even though Suge, as big as he was, and Snoop, at that point, they just with 2 million sales, they took the whole issue into Tupac. A young cat. I want to join the family, Don. Get me out. The only way for me to come back is there's no two-man spot. It's only one spot over like what you call nigga in the kingdom. You know what I mean? And he was that main kid, and everybody tried to be like him. And nobody was successful unless they came from his camp or they was down with him. And that's how my shit is.
The day he came out of prison, he started recording his next album, All Eyez On Me, which ended up becoming a double LP. One of the first songs he recorded was Ambitions as a Writer, on which he had quite a few subliminal lines against Stretch and Biggie. The song was made a month before Stretch's passing. This is obviously a shot at Stretch for letting Tupac take on the robbers all by himself, while he was sitting on the ground and watching his friend get roughed up. He used the phrase B-S-N-word, which Stretch also used in the Vibe magazine, quoting the robbers who were insulting Tupac and pistol whipping him. Pac obviously took offense to it, as Stretch was just sitting there doing nothing, taking notes of what everyone said instead of helping, watching his friend get beaten up and shot, and then telling everyone how Pac got punked, how he got stormed out and pistol whipped while they were calling him B-S-N-word, taking his jewelry while Pac couldn't do anything about it. Stretch's comments in the Vibe magazine came off as him making fun of Tupac. He implied that Tupac is a fake thug. And in this song, Pac is trying to flip it, saying that Stretch is actually the one who's a fake thug, that he wouldn't have gotten robbed if he had real people with him. So they were blaming each other for the outcome of the robbery. Then he also talks about jealous people who are trying to be like him, most likely referring to Biggie's Junior Mafia, cause later on the song Hit 'Em Up, he said,
They don't wanna see us, whole Junior Mafia clique, dressing up trying to be us. It was my only wish to rise above these jealous coward motherfuckers and spies.
Calling Biggie and his team jealous cowards he despises. A couple lines later, he actually says Ready to Die, which is the name of Biggie's debut album, possibly dropping subliminal lines just like Biggie supposedly did on Who Shot Ya.
I was the first officer, give me the nine. I'm ready to die right here tonight, motherfucker. Like
So it once again seems like he's indirectly involving Biggie when mentioning the whole Quad Studio incident, saying that he's hard to kill, ready to die, spitting at adversaries that are envious and after him. And then he also makes another Biggie reference by naming another one of his songs, playing around with the name of the last track on Ready to Die, which is Suicidal Thoughts.
Mama, come rescue me, I'm suicidal thinking thoughts. I'm innocent, said every bullet flying when I'm caught.
In the next verse, he says that he'll get his revenge on the people that played him and all the cowards who were involved, meaning Jimmy Henchman, and also everyone who knew about the shooting, meaning Puffy and supposedly Biggie.
My history of proof authentic, revenge on the missing and paid, and all the cowards that was down with it.
On October 16th, Biggie's album Ready to Die went double platinum, reaching the milestone of 2 million records sold before Tupac. So Big went platinum and double platinum before Tupac, even though Pac had been in the game for way longer. Not only that, but Biggie also had multiple platinum singles out. Big Papa went platinum on May 23rd, One More Chance on July 31st. Juicy and Players Anthem were also gold. But Pac wasn't too far behind. He had the platinum single Dear Mama and the gold singles I Get Around and Keep Your Head Up. Strictly for My Niggaz and Me Against the World were hereby platinum. But he had no double platinum albums yet. That would change 2 months later on December 6th with Me Against the World going double platinum. The same day Biggie's Junior Mafia group album Conspiracy went gold. So these two were going head to head. Everyone was surprised how fast Biggie caught up to him, all with one album. Pac had 3 solo albums and was a movie star, but Big managed to take over the game in his absence while he was serving time in prison. Biggie was now the undisputed King of New York, and the West Coast needed someone to step forward as the King of the West Coast. Who was it going to be? Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, or Tupac? The fans were waiting for them to drop their albums and for the West Coast to make a comeback. But none of them at the time were able to drop an album as dope as Ready to Die, except Tupac. And the people from Death Row were taking a step back to let Tupac shine. They put all their focus on him. And he was in the studio every day since the day he came out. He had to get a lot off his chest. The day that changed everything was October 18th, when the wife of the Notorious B.I.G, Faith Evans, met Tupac in L.A. That's when the whole Biggie and Pac beef escalated. At this point in time, Big and Faith were separated, after catching him cheating with Lil' Kim. Prior to that, Kim was actually on the radio bragging about how Big and Faith are separated and that she can now have him for herself. And this was before the two actually broke up. Kim's comments on the radio made Faith suspicious. She then found out that the two had been sleeping together every time he went out to record music late at night. Also during the Junior Mafia tour, basically during the entirety of their marriage. And Lil' Kim would always pretend to be something like a sister to her. Biggie also had a rapper named Charlie Baltimore as his mistress. He had multiple women on the side and had become the player he claimed to be in his lyrics. Faith then confronted him at the Millennium Hotel in Times Square, asking, "What is up with you and Kim?" Big was honest and said, "Yeah, we get down like that." He didn't deny it. "All this time? You've been effing this girl all this time?" "Yeah," Biggie said. Faith appreciated his honesty and they slept together that same night, but she didn't feel the connection anymore now that she knew about his cheating. She did it for closure and wanted to separate from him, decided to live alone for a while. She said that she didn't care who Biggie wanted to sleep with from that point on. Faith then refused to go on tour with Biggie and instead lived in the 2-bedroom apartment of the R&B group 112, which consists of 4 male members. Without Biggie being around to pay the bills, Faith was struggling with money. One day she called him at their house, but it was his mistress, Charlie Baltimore, who picked up for him, and that's when she knew that he's cheating again. She called him on different dates and it was always Charlie who picked up for him, always at Big's house while he and Faith lived separately. Faith supposedly beat up all the women Biggie was cheating with, even Lil' Kim, but at this point in time she was done caring. She then met an NBA player in New Orleans, whose name she changed to hide his identity. She just called him Roger Short, a tall, dark-skinned man from New Orleans, playing for a team in the Midwest. She was attracted to him and started an affair of her own. So now she was cheating back on Biggie, purposefully sleeping with men she's attracted to get back at him. The same day she met Roger, she wrote him the address to her hotel room, and that's when they started hooking up. She would have a couple one-night stands and affairs here and there, just to spite Biggie. This will become important later on when she meets Tupac. She was feeling more and more disconnected from her husband and her bad boy label mates. Started making her own business moves while the bad boy camp was touring. They were mad at her for not touring with them. Faith kept a distance from her husband and wanted to advance in her career on her own, while hooking up with men like Roger Short during her trips around the US. She had friends with benefits in multiple cities. In October, she then came to LA to record some music. She was staying at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel and once again got in touch with Roger Short. Then she met a producer she called Terry Dollars on the same trip. His real name is most likely Teddy Riley. She had sex with him a few times as well. And shortly after that, on October 18th, 6 days after Tupac got released from prison, Faith went to the Hollywood Athletic Club in LA, where she met Tretch from Naughty by Nature. There are 2 conflicting recounts of what happened next. According to Faith, Tretch told her that Tupac wants to meet her, but according to Tretch, it was the other way around. Faith was the one who wanted to meet Tupac, but according to Faith, she knew nothing about him and had no interest in him. In some of her interviews, she even claimed that she didn't even know who Tupac was, or that he was signed to Death Row. But in her book, Keep the Faith, a memoir released in 2009, she admitted to knowing him. Even added that Biggie told him about their beef and his accusations of him having something to do with the Quad Studio shooting. According to Faye, Biggie was convinced that Pac knew better than to think that he had something to do with it, basically implying that he was creating drama and lying on purpose. So Faith knew exactly what was going on between the two, and still decided to meet her husband's accuser, someone who considered her husband his enemy. Went to talk to him before Big and Pac could talk it out. He's not even been outside for a week and she's already meeting him, before Big even got a chance to reach out to him, cause he was on tour. They could have talked it out before Faith got involved, and Big didn't know what Tupac was going to do next. He wanted to see him and talk it out, but there was an awkward silence between them. And now his vengeful wife is going to his potential enemy, someone who's also vengeful and has built up a lot of hate and resentment for Biggie. A lot of people believe that she knew exactly what she was doing, that she purposefully looked for Pac to sleep with him, sleep with someone Biggie considered a brother, just like how she considered Lil' Kim her sister, before getting stabbed in the back. She was already sleeping with other men the nights before, and was going to a new club every night to meet men. She wanted to hurt Biggie the same way he hurt her, and now, according to Tretch, she's asking for Tupac. Soon as they greeted each other, a photographer came and took pictures, and you can clearly see that she's not wearing her wedding ring. She's showing off her ringless hands, while Tupac is looking provocative. Faith told everybody, including Tupac, that she and Big are separated and about to get divorced. So she might have purposefully holden up her ringless hand to seek attention from Biggie. Like, look, I can go and hook up with your enemy if you don't treat me right. This is what you get for betraying me. Maybe she was indeed trying to hurt Biggie the same way he hurt her. Cause there is no other explanation on why she's holding up her hand like that. But later on she was playing innocent, telling Biggie that she never cheated on him. But she later admitted to it after he passed. And yes, she took off her wedding ring every time she went to the club. Tupac complimented her, saying that he likes her music and wants her on his album, adding that only she can do that one song he has in mind, which is Wonder Why They Call You B. Faith was struggling with money at the time. Without her husband or label supporting her, she wanted to make her own deals and work with artists on the West Coast. And she obviously knew that working with Pac would make her husband mad, or at least make him worry. Seeking attention while playing with fire. You don't just collaborate with people who accused your husband of being somewhat responsible for a shooting. Faith told Pac that he would have to get clearance from Bad Boy Records to put that song on the album, and that she wants $25,000 up front. That's not a problem, Pac said. In her memoir, she said that she didn't actually go ahead and work with him immediately, but instead went home to think about it and to ask her manager Mark Pitts and Biggie on the phone, quote-unquote, a day or two later, if it was fine for her to do a song with him. And they supposedly told her that it was no problem, that she can go ahead. I met Tupac out here. He wants me to do a song with him, Faith said. Oh, word? Big responded. You're gonna do it? If the money comes through, yeah, I'll do it. According to Faith, Big played it cool, as if he wasn't worried or jealous, which might have not been the type of response Faith was anticipating. But Big knew better than to sound jealous and worried, as that would make him look weak and insecure in Faith's eyes. Then again, we don't know if this conversation actually took place, as Big was shocked when he saw Pac and Faith together. So she could have lied about it to make herself look better, cause as we will find out, she told quite a few lies to save her image and reputation. So doing a song with someone you supposedly know nothing about requires you to ask your husband for permission, but stepping out of the marriage doesn't? She wasn't even on speaking terms with him anymore. I mean, she was collaborating with multiple artists without having to ask anyone for permission. But Tupac somehow is the exception. It's not unlikely that she knew what she was doing was wrong, or else she wouldn't have asked for permission, assuming that she did indeed make those phone calls. But yeah, a lot had changed between them. Just a couple weeks prior, they were trying to come off as hip-hop's dream couple. They were on the cover of the October '95 issue of the Vibe magazine, and now she's hanging out with Tupac. The photographer who was there that day was supposedly ordered and paid by the people from Death Row to take those pictures with Faith and Pac together. She said nothing else happened after that night at the Hollywood Athletic Club. She just went home and that was that. In her first recount, she said that Pac couldn't get the clearance from Bad Boy Records, and that it never went any further than them taking pictures at the club. She then supposedly went and recorded the reference track for a girl group that's not part of Death Row. And Death Row supposedly tried to get their hands on those vocals, so that they can put it on Tupac's album. She initially denied that they were ever in a studio together, saying that she was only in the studio with the girl group she was working with, not with Tupac. That's what she said in her first account, during an interview with Video Music Box on July 27th, 1996.
Situation with me and Tupac, there really never was a situation. I mean, we met, he was really nice. He asked me to work on his album. He told me he could get it approved or whatever, get clearance from the label. And then I found out that he probably couldn't. I was out there working with another group. I won't name them. They have nothing to do with Death Row.
Okay.
And I was writing for them. That's how I met him. I did a reference vocal for another group I won't name.
Okay.
And it ended up that they were going to try to use that vocal on Tupac's album. So I guess it was for him or whatever. I really don't know.
This can be easily disproven, as there are audio recordings of them together in the studio on October 19th, while they were working on the song Wonder Why They Call You B. There were also about a dozen eyewitnesses who have seen those two together in the studio.
Take it back?
I'm saying I went into the verse.
That's all right.
All right.
Remember, we can bring you in and out whenever we want.
Okay.
You want to say that? Yeah. You have a choice? Here you go.
This shit mad fast.
Hey, but you're doing it. You're doing it though, girl. Exactly, you are.
This right here is from an interview with Chuck Phillips, which took place on October 19th. And you can clearly hear Faith recording her vocals and talking to Tupac, while Pac is outside the booth having an interview with Chuck Phillips. So both of her stories were lies. First she said they were never in a studio together. And then in the memoir she said that the studio session happened after the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party on November 14th, adding wild stories to assassinate Tupac's character. But this recording from October 19th disproves it and shows that Faith was hiding the truth and trickle-truthing millions in an attempt to cover up what really happened. And the truth is that Pac and Faith left the Hollywood Athletic Club together, the same day they met, October 18th. Cause when Pac went out to smoke, he saw Faith leave the building. He then yelled across the parking lot, "Y'all leaving?" And Faith responded, "No." Pac then said, "Cause we about to go back to my hotel room. What y'all gonna do?" And Faith said, "We gonna follow you." That night, Faith went to Tupac's room at the Peninsula Hotel. The next day, on October 19th, Pac and Faith drove to Can-Am Studios in Pac's convertible. Can-Am Studio was hereby the recording facility of Death Row Records, and she admitted in her book that she immediately knew that this was Death Row's territory. She saw Suge, Corrupt, and various Death Row affiliates there. She then recorded the hook for the song Wonder Why They Call You B. With Pac being on Demon Time, he also played her the first beat for the Biggie diss track Hit 'Em Up, saying, "Look, I've been working on new music for my new album." With everyone from Death Row in that room smirking. They all knew what Pac was going to use the beat for. Faith and Puffy's baby mama, Misa Hylton, who was also there that day, were the only ones who had no idea what that song was about. They were just bobbing their heads to the beat and enjoying it. Pac hadn't laid down a verse yet, but he was planning to brag about sleeping with her, which he tried to do that same day. So he basically played Biggie's wife the beat on which he was planning to kill her husband lyrically. Planning to brag about sleeping with her while she's there in the studio vibing to the beat, not knowing what's about to happen. Having a great time enjoying the music, just to find out that she was vibing to the melody of the song that would turn Biggie's world upside down and give him the shock of his life. The disrespect. Unbelievable. I mean, how was Faith supposed to explain it to her husband? What was she supposed to say? "Honey, I was in the studio with the guy who accused you of setting him up. I was in a hotel with him and he's now bragging that he slept with me. Oh, and I was also vibing to the beat he tried to end your career with." It was a terrible look. Just imagine Faith's reaction hearing Pac brag about sleeping with her on the same beat she was bobbing her head to while using it to humiliate Biggie. And at the time the song came out, she had a baby on the way. Those were probably the darkest times in Faith's life. Following the teachings of Machiavelli, Tupac wanted to win by all means necessary, using methods that are cruel and immoral, but effective. A leg lock, something that would ensure Tupac's victory, making it nearly impossible for Biggie to come back, humiliating and dethroning the King of New York. A lot of people saw Faith sit on Tupac's lap while they were spending time in the studio. The singer Natasha Walker said that she saw Faith's legs between Tupac's legs. Actor and singer Ray J has seen it too. We walked in one day and Faith was sitting on Tupac's lap while Pac was writing a verse. It was like, what the F is going on? That was one of the craziest sights, dog. Faith was in Pac's lap. I was like, what the F? I'm not... Is that... It can't. I'm not hating on nobody. I got love for Faith. That was unbelievable. During the time of the East Coast-West Coast beef. Others said that they looked like a couple. The song Wonder Why They Call You B was a subliminal diss towards Biggie's wife Faith Evans. But she didn't fully understand it.
And that's why they called you bitch, I betcha.
In the song, Pac was pointing out the hypocrisy and the delusion of promiscuous women. And Faith didn't understand the irony of her sitting on Pac's lap and cheating on Biggie, while at the same time making a song bashing promiscuous women. And Pac wanted to point that out to everyone. The same woman that jumped on a song bashing promiscuous women is promiscuous herself, cheating on her husband while pretending to be a loyal wife. Cause that night after the studio session, according to multiple people that were close to Pac, the two slept together in Tupac's hotel room at the Peninsula Hotel. There are witnesses like Dru Down who were actually present at the hotel and have seen them walk into his room. Dru Down actually confronted Faith for lying on Pac years later, and tons of eyewitnesses have called her out for denying it. But that wasn't the only time Pac and Faith hung out together. She would occasionally pay him a visit and shower him with gifts between October 19th and November 14th. She went on shopping sprees in LA, and according to the singer Danny Boy, she bought Pac trunks full of clothes and gifts, supposedly after the day they slept together. Like for example an expensive gold Versace silk shirt, which he would later wear to taunt Biggie. Like on November 5th in Las Vegas for example. He bragged about it in the Daily News later on, which of course infuriated Biggie. Pac wanted to ruin his marriage after seeing the October 95 issue of the Vibe magazine, with Biggie and Faith on the cover. On those pictures they seemed like the perfect dream couple. All eyes were on them. Everybody read about their love story, how they got married 8 days after meeting each other. They called it love at first sight, and Pac wanted to destroy that, embarrass them in front of the whole world. Just like how Big and everyone at the Quad Studios tried to embarrass him with their comments in the Vibe. He wanted to turn their love story into a joke, especially after hearing about Stretch trying to sleep with Pac's ex-girlfriend Desiree Smith while he was hanging out with Biggie's homies. He wanted to get back at both of them. But the whole time he was keeping his hatred for Biggie a secret from Faith. They kept seeing each other all the way up until November 14th, when they went to the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party together. But they supposedly only slept together on October 19th. And Suge Knight was sleeping with Puffy's baby mama Misa Hylton the whole time. Pac told him to take pictures of them together, so that they can shock Puffy the same way they wanted to shock Biggie. They wanted them to get ridiculed by the media, and hit them where it hurts the most. Here is a picture with Suge and Puffy's son Justin. You can also see Misa Hylton's legs on the left. Suge and Misa hooked up numerous times ever since the 95 Source Awards, and he would always fly her out to LA, together with her son, just to humiliate Puffy. Pac also did the same thing with Mary J. Blige, who Puffy was working with at the time. While Pac slept with her in one room, Suge slept with Misa Hylton in the other, boasting about how they can sleep with every woman in Puffy and Biggie's life, and then send them back to the East Coast. Mary J. Blige was supposedly passed around by multiple people on death row, like for example Danny Boy and Suge himself. Pac later complained and joked about Mary's bad smell in the intimate area. Pac and Suge were doing everything they could to belittle and emasculate Puffy and Biggie, rubbing it into their faces and showing them that they can get away with everything. A lot of the shady things they did behind the scenes was hidden from the public. They were trying to drive them crazy and provoke a response, which they ended up getting months later. Pac and Suge shared a common interest. They both wanted to find out more about Puffy, cause Suge and other Mob Piru members indirectly held Puffy responsible for Jake's murder. Tupac, on the other hand, blamed Puffy for withholding information about the shooters and the mastermind behind the Quad Studio shooting, thinking he would have told him if he wasn't cool with those people or part of the whole setup. By the end of October, Pac had decided to go on the offensive against Biggie, Puffy and Bad Boy by writing more battle rap themed tracks or songs where he's taking subliminal shots at his enemies. Like on Only God Can Judge Me, for example, which was recorded on October 26th.
Perhaps I was blind to the facts. Stabbed in the back, I couldn't trust my own homies, just a bunch of dirty facts.
He started off by saying that he got stabbed in the back by his own homies during and after the Quad Studio shooting. He's obviously talking about Stretch, Biggie and Puffy.
I can't lie, ain't no love for the other side. Jealousy inside, make 'em wish I died.
The next couple of jabs are on the Posse track When We Ride, featuring the Outlaws and ex-members of the group Thug Life. It was recorded a day later on October 27th.
My adversaries crumble when we rumble. It's a catastrophe. I for revenge on him to get that blasted me.
In the song When We Ride, Pac is talking about a certain person who shouldn't have quote-unquote effed around with a sick-ass guy like him. He's talking about one person here, saying that his adversaries will crumble and that he's out for revenge for the people that shot him. On October 30th, Pac recorded the title track of his album All Eyez On Me, which also contains subliminal shots at Biggie.
I bet you got it twisted, you don't know who to trust. So many player hating shit trying to sound like us.
With all the different recounts in the Vibe magazine about the Quad Studio shooting, fans and readers were confused on who to trust, Pac or Biggie and everyone else who was there at the Quad Studios. Their versions of the story conflicted Pac's detailed description of the things that transpired during the shooting. Both sides called each other out for lying and tried to make themselves look better. Pac also accused Biggie of trying to copy his sound and style, especially the player image, him making records for the ladies and club bangers for his album. Pac was the one who told him to change his style a bit and to make more radio-friendly records. That's how Biggie became successful, at least according to Pac. But now those same people who supposedly copied him are now player hating and talking bad about him in the media.
Say they ready for the funk, but I don't think they know it. Straight to the depths of hell is where them cowards going.
Ready for the Funk is not only referencing Biggie's album Ready to Die, but also the song Machine Gun Funk on the same album.
Say they ready for the funk, but I don't think they know it. Straight to the depths of hell is where them cowards going.
Pac is basically saying that they're all liars and cowards who would run at first sign of funk, saying that they're not ready for it, which is actually what happened a couple months later after the Soul Train Awards in '96. More on that later. Pac is ready to send those people to hell for supposedly backstabbing him.
Well, are you still down? Holler when you see me and let these devils suck for the day they finally freed me.
Holla When You See Me is directed at both Biggie and Stretch. He actually made a song called Holla at Me about a month later, in which he dedicated a couple verses to both of them. He believed that Biggie and Puffy had previous knowledge of or inside intel of those involved in the Quad Studio shooting. So Pac is asking them, are you still down? Telling them to holla at him. He's been waiting all this time for them to come pay him a visit and talk it out with him. Expected them to come see him in prison and to show love and support. Not on the radio for clouds, but actual support in person. See if he or his family needs something. Things you would expect from your closest friends. Instead of doing this whole back and forth in the magazines, they shall come holla at him. A day later, on October 31st, Tupac decided to add insult to injury by recording the first version of the Biggie diss track Hit 'Em Up. A full song going at him. Not just subliminal lines here and there, but an entire verse from Pac bragging about sleeping with Faith Evans, using the same beat he played for her before sleeping with her. He slept with Big's wife and made sure that there are pictures and recordings of them together, which the media would spread everywhere around the world. That was step 1 of Pac's war strategy. This is now 12 days after that incident. Step 2 was now to put it on wax and record the biggest battle record ever, something that gets played all around the world, at clubs, at parties, at events, on every block, so that you can't escape it. Similar to how Tupac couldn't escape Who Shot Ya while he was in prison. They played the song around him to piss him off, to see his reaction. It was pure entertainment to them. And Pac wanted to give Biggie a taste of his own medicine, so that he can't escape the humiliation. Constantly hearing the song that destroyed his marriage and his player image. It was a leg lock, something that's really hard to get out of and to come back from. Because diss tracks are all about emasculating the opponent and making them look like a joke. How are you supposed to not only undo the damage, but also come back in a way that you're seen as the victor? As someone who made a strong comeback with a counterpunch that deals more damage than destroying someone's marriage. Biggie would need to drop a nuclear bomb to make a comeback. Pac also wanted to introduce the world to his clique the Outlaw Immortals, which was supposed to be an upgrade over the Thug Life movement prior to his incarceration. He wanted the Outlaws to blow away Biggie's Junior Mafia, because Junior Mafia had successfully defeated Thug Life in terms of sales. Pac was planning to release a project with the Outlaws similar to the Thug Life album and JM's Conspiracy, but more successful, putting Biggie's movement to shame and showing him that he should have been part of Pac's movement instead of creating his own. And he also wanted to show Biggie that he's not on his level, that he's on the level of the Outlaws, on the level of his soldiers. Just like how Big was supposed to be his soldier on Thug Life.
I ain't got no motherfucking friend. Chugging the talking about. Hell yeah, I'ma do this motherfucking track. And they know exactly who I'm talking about too, you old it's made.
Pac starts off by saying that he has no friends. and that unlike Biggie, he doesn't need to diss people subliminally. Felt like all his friends stabbed him in the back, thinking that Biggie and Stretch turned on him. When they said that they still consider Tupac as their friends, Pac responded with, "I ain't got no friends," basically saying no thank you. Pac is also saying that Big should have been more direct, instead of making songs that are subliminal, leaving it up for interpretation and then denying it in interviews. Instead of talking behind people's backs like Biggie supposedly did after the Quad Studio shooting, while at the same time pretending like everything is cool, Pac takes action and stays true to his word, making it public that he slept with Big's wife, showing that he's true to the game and not all talk. Not a two-faced coward that says one thing and does another, but someone who's direct and real. His words are aligned with his actions. A true player unlike Biggie. He proved that he's a player by sleeping with Big's wife. That's what he was trying to say. As mentioned earlier, Biggie and Puffy talked badly about Pac while he was in prison, saying that he was in movie mode, acting, exaggerating and lying. Puff in particular called him a fake thug in the Vibe magazine, and Big claimed that Pac shot himself and that he didn't actually get shot 5 times. He supposedly lied about it to look better and tougher, cause in the hood people lose respect for you if you get dropped after shooting yourself, especially when you have a thug or tough guy image. Pac hopes that Big made enough money while he was locked up, cause now that he's released, he'll make sure that his sales will drop and his career will come to an end. He wanted to show the world that he can easily outsell and outperform him. Pointing out the sudden change in style, how he went commercial and adapted the player image, even though he never wanted to go that route. He calls him phony and fat, the furthest thing from a player. The Biggie that Pac got to know wasn't popular with women, and he didn't wear the most expensive clothes and drink champagne every day. Pointing out how he all of a sudden started wearing Versace just like Pac, basically copying him, which is of course debatable. And the tough talk on Who Shot Ya, where he raps about shooting people, is all bluff to him, cause he's under the impression that Big ain't really a tough guy, that he's too scared to actually get involved in shootings, and that he's not the tough gangster that shoots people like in the music video for Warning. Pac calls Biggie a cross-eyed crack baby with Down syndrome. As most of you know, Biggie has a lazy eye, which means that one of his eyes sometimes wanders outward as it's weaker than the other. A crack baby is a term coined to describe children who were exposed to crack as fetuses, meaning he implied that Big's mother smoked crack while being pregnant with Biggie. The part about the Down syndrome was obviously not true, but he wanted to make him look like a disabled person because of his eye problems. He also makes fun of him and Puff for trying to act tough on records like Who Shot Ya or on the Conspiracy album, where they embraced the mafioso style, and also in their music videos of course. This was said in response to what Puffy said about him in the Vibe magazine, calling him a fake thug who should stop acting and treating his life like a movie.
I got your ass in my sight, nigga down tonight, we screaming West Side for life. And I can't wait to see you the traffic, cause we gon' get 'em up. When you see me, you better bust.
Big and Pac would later see each other after an award show, where it almost came to a shooting. More on that later. In the hook, Pac raps the infamous line, this is obviously referring to the song Who Shot Ya. With Pac saying you punks didn't finish, he's indirectly putting the mastermind of the shooting, the robbers and also Biggie and Puffy in the same group. So people interpreted these lines as him accusing Biggie and Puffy of having something to do with the shooting. Cause why else would you tell Biggie, the guy who made Who Shot Ya, that he and his people didn't manage to finish him off? Why did he even make that connection? Biggie's name is somehow always brought up when he talks about his shooters. And this goes back to people in prison telling him that Biggie bragged about his homies robbing Tupac. But again, there's zero evidence that Biggie actually did that. The people who fed Pac information might have lied about it for their own agenda. Or maybe they misinterpreted something. Or maybe Tupac was indeed clout chasing, cause that's what E Moneybagg said after visiting Tupac in prison. He wanted to hear his side of the story, and came to the conclusion that Pac had no actual evidence to blame Biggie. He told Prodigy from Mobb Deep that he's only doing it to increase his record sales, which means that Big didn't deserve all the things Tupac did to him after coming out of prison. This version of the song also features Napoleon, who was left off the final product, which came out a year later. It didn't surprise me that he was cut off, as most of the lines weren't actually disses. Idi Amin's verse dealt with the same problem. Same with Gaddafi and the female rapper Storm. It's mostly just empty threats and nothing else. None of the lines on here deserve to be on a diss track. So I'm not surprised that they actually scrapped the whole song. Only one aside from Tupac who did well on this song was Hussein Fatal, who was probably the most skilled rapper of the group. His punchlines made it to the final version of the song, so I will cover them later. At the time, Pac didn't really know what to do with the song. Cause A, it wasn't good enough, and B, he felt like he was going a little bit too far, cause there would be no coming back after releasing this. Cause what if it turns out that Biggie was actually innocent? Then Pac would be seen as the backstabber, the one that slept with the wife of his homie after accusing him of setting him up, and after lying about him in the media. But now it was already too late for him to stop, so he stuck to his beliefs and his opinions but didn't go all the way through. That's why most of the disses on All Eyez On Me are subliminal. He removed Hit 'Em Up from the tracklist. With Suge's homie Big Jake getting shot and killed prior to Pac's release from prison, and with the media turning the feud between two labels into a coastal war, nobody wanted to turn it into a bloodbath. So Pac wasn't going all out yet in '95. He wasn't sure if he should put any of the songs where he mentions Biggie, Puffy or Bad Boy onto his upcoming double album. But he made sure to include subliminal lines with keywords that Puff and Big would understand and interpret as disses towards them. Every time Pac talked about enemies, snakes, betrayal, traitors, or the quad studio shooting in general, he was talking about Big and Puffy, cause those were the people who were on his mind back then. Like on the song Can't See Me, for example, which Pac recorded on November 2nd, 2 days after working on Hit 'Em Up. Pac was on a mission to surprise his enemies with the biggest comeback ever, while lyrically taking aim at everyone who badmouthed him while he was locked up. All the people that were happy that they finally got rid of him will now see him in flesh and suffer the consequences. Telling people to make clear what side they're on. Are they with him or are they against him? For Pac, his old friends Biggie and Stretch had already made their decisions, and he no longer considered them friends. They had their time to shine while Pac was locked up, but now that he's out, he's taking back his crown, eliminating all his adversaries like they're no competition for him. In the outro, he also says that people shouldn't believe everything they read, talking about all the different statements made by eyewitnesses who talked about the quad studio shooting, like Biggie, Puffy, Lil Sean, Andre Harrell, Jimmy Henchman, Stretch. They had multiple accounts of what happened and some of the statements contradicted each other. So Pac is telling his fans to not believe everything they read, implying that his enemies are lying on him. This is the only song on the album where he's mentioning Biggie by name.
This one's for you, big baby.
On November 5th, Pac, Suge, The Outlaws and the entire Death Row family drove to Las Vegas to perform at Suge's Club 662 and to promote the album All Eyez On Me. On that day, he wore the silk shirt that Faith bought for him, cause as mentioned earlier, Faith would go on shopping sprees and then return with gifts for Tupac. They had a very close relationship. Pac even bragged about it in interviews, which on January 14th, 1996, made it on the New York Times. Tonight, Suge is wearing a new maroon suit and a matching fedora. The rest of the Death Row posse are wearing red and black, black pants or red pants, or black blazers or red blazers. Tupac is the only one in a different color. He's wearing an elaborately patterned gold shirt and baggy jeans. The wife of a top rapper bought this for him, Suge says. Who's that? His name is an acronym. Notorious B.I.G's wife, Faith Evans. She bought him this and a suit, and some other stuff, Suge says. And how did you thank her, Tupac? Tupac pauses. I did enough, he says rather salaciously. That same day, on November 5th, Pac did an interview with Uncle Luke and appeared on Luke's Peep Show, taunting Faith and Biggie.
I got a song with Snoop, I got a song with Corrupt, Jazz, Rage, Faith, and Bad Boy. There you go. I got a song with that with Faith and Bad Boy. We did this track together. What do I call you? I just want to tell you, you miss motherfucker. Can we talk? I hate when them New York singing be throwing up gang signs. I seen Biggie throwing up this. Biggie don't know nothing about no gang signs. Why did he keep throwing up gang signs? Why do these East Coast niggas be, if they come to California, some of these true to life gangbangers gonna pull your motherfucking card. Cause these niggas out here dying for that shit, and you wanna make a video and play with that shit. Be careful, homie. All you fake friend ass niggas, you got to be careful because it's very dangerous out here. You can do that little set me up in the studio in New York, but in California, nigga, that's where the G's ride.
On November 7th, Pac recorded the song Hearts of Men, on which he starts off by reminding the CEO of Death Row Records what he told and promised him when he came out of prison.
Hey, Suge, what I tell you when I come out of jail, what I was gonna do? I was gonna start digging into these chests, right?
He promised him that he'll destroy the label Bad Boy Entertainment. And Suge obviously liked what he was hearing, as he himself was already in a beef with the CEO of Bad Boy Entertainment, Puff Daddy. And he knew that controversy sells. So his eyes turned into dollar signs, and they immediately came to an understanding.
Now me and Quick finna show you niggas like on this side, the real side.
He then continues by saying that he'll show everybody what it's like on the west side, the real side, implying that the East Coast ain't the real side. He's creating this contrast of real and fake. The riders on the West Coast and the quote-unquote pussies on the East Coast.
Now this ride's gonna be some real motherfuckers, it's gonna be some pussy.
DJ Quick was there when Suge Knight slept with Puffy's baby mama Misa Hylton. He was one of the few eyewitnesses who've seen them leave the hotel together after the '95 Source Awards. He and Pac were both laughing at them and were making fun of the East Coast together. He also explains how there will be real people on your side who are true friends, but also fake ones who are disguised as friends but envy you and turn into enemies the first chance they get, in a moment of weakness when you're asking them for help.
So you got something else against side to say to your friends, but in real life, they're your enemies.
He was most likely referring to Stretch and Biggie. He's just disappointed in them as friends, and thought that they did more damage than actual good with their statements in interviews and their actions during and after the shooting. He also thought that Biggie and Puffy wanted to see him rot in jail. 3 days later, between November 10th and November 13th, Pac and Dr. Dre were at the shooting for the California Love music video. The two hung out together on the set and even made fun of Biggie.
What's my boy name? Biggie who?
Dr. Dre found out about the song Hit 'Em Up, which Tupac originally wanted to put on All Eyez On Me, and he offered Pac to remix it so that it becomes the biggest record ever. But Pac refused as he wanted to stay loyal to his friend Johnny J, who actually produced that record. Tupac also bragged about sleeping with Faith when they turned on the cameras to promote the record and the label Death Row.
I just want to send a shout out to Faith. Hey girl, hey, and Bad Boy Records. That's for Bad Boy Records. I love y'all. Y'all keep making money.
Suge was in the video too. Those two were the main people on Death Row who wanted to destroy Bad Boy. A day later, after filming the music video to Cali Love, Tupac and Faith met again for the last time at the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party on November 14th. There was no mention of this meeting in Faith's first recount when she was asked in interviews months later. But in her memoir, which she released in 2009, she spoke about a whole new set of events that supposedly transpired after the night at the soundtrack release party, which she either tried to hide or forgot to mention in her first account in '96, or made up and added on top of a mountain of lies in an attempt to trickle-truth people who have noticed the holes in her story. Cause at first she denied ever being in a studio or hotel room with him. But then later in her memoir she said that they indeed met up and spent time together after the day they took those pictures at the Hollywood Athletic Club on October 18th. The only problem is that she messed up her timeline in the attempt to make everyone believe that she did not sleep with Tupac. Cause she made it seem like the Exhale soundtrack release party happened directly after they first met on October 18th, saying that they recorded the song after the release party which took place on November 14th. So it doesn't really make sense as there's a whole month in between those dates. Pac had already recorded the first version of Hit 'Em Up on October 31st, meaning 2 weeks after their meeting. And on the song, like explained earlier, he bragged about sleeping with her. And we also have actual audio recordings which prove that they indeed recorded the song on October 19th. Faith made it seem like she had to get permission from Biggie and her manager Mark Pitts in order to do the song with Pac a couple days after meeting him on October 18th, implying that the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party happened in October. But it did not. Only reason why she purposefully lied about the timeline is because she tried to paint Tupac as a monster and sexual predator who harassed her, and made her take the first flight back home to New York after that supposed traumatic experience. She couldn't have done that if she had admitted to doing the song with him on October 19th, cause that's when they actually recorded the song according to the evidence we have. And she was still cool with Tupac after that studio session and after spending time with him at the hotel room. They were cool for a whole month. And she didn't leave LA until mid-November. And guess what? There are still pictures of Pac and Faith together in mid-November. November 14th to be exact, at the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party. And at the party they were hanging out like friends, sharing a table for a whole night. You wouldn't do that with someone who harassed you. So she messed up the timeline on purpose. But let's look at what she said so that you can form your own opinion on it. They were on their way to the soundtrack release party when Tupac called her asking where she's at. Notice how Pac somehow has her phone number and can call her up casually like a friend, as if they're close, and not complete strangers like Faith made it out to be. Pac saw Faith's car and jumped in the back seat. They both got out the car when they arrived at the red carpets and hung out together the entire day. Pac sat at the same table as her the whole night. They then went to an after party together at the Peninsula Hotel, the exact hotel Tupac was staying at. Pac jumped into Faith's limo and they drove to the hotel together. She then said that Pac picked her up in a convertible and they drove to the K&M Studios, which is where Death Row recorded most of their music. And she saw Suge, Corrupt and people from the label there, knowing that Puffy and Suge were in the middle of a beef. But she still decided to record the song with Pac. This is what she said in the second version of her story. In the first version, they never even were in a studio together. Now all of a sudden she admits that they indeed went to hotels and studios together. They even smoked a blunt, and then recorded One Day Where They Call You B. Afterwards, Faith asked for her check of $25,000, which Tupac promised on October 18th when they first met at the Hollywood Athletic Club. And Pac supposedly said, "My manager is bringing it to my hotel right now. I can bring it to you later on this evening, or we can swing by there right now and pick it up." In her memoir, she then said that she wanted to go to Tupac's room at the Peninsula Hotel to get that check. But when they got there, no manager was in sight. But there were two guys in Tupac's hotel room waiting and smoking blunts. She then said that the four of them waited in Tupac's hotel room for a whole hour, but the manager wouldn't come. At one point, Pac's friends left and she was all alone in the room with him. As soon as the two guys left, Pac supposedly confronted her. "You know I love New York, but I'm not effing with New York right now." Faith got scared and was shocked by Pac's sudden switch of mood and attitude. "Really? Why is that?" Faith asked. "'Cause they set me up. You know that, right?" Pac was supposedly staring at her like she was the one who set him up. "You don't really believe that bullish. I'm telling you, they set me up." "Look, Pac, I just need to get my check and then I have to go," Faith said. "The situation with the money is like this. If I give it to you, then you my B-word." "Your what?" "You heard me. You gotta be my B-word." Faith got up and moved further away from where Pac was standing. "I'm not anybody's B-word," Faith said. "You Biggie's B-word," Pac said. "I'm his wife. I thought y'all broke up. We still married. Whatever. Look, you hired me to do a song. I did. I want my money and that's it." "Oh, word? It's like that? You just want your money. You told me it wouldn't be a problem. The only reason why I came up here is because you said..." Pac then supposedly interrupted her and said, "So you're not trying to suck my D?" "What?" Faith screamed. "What are you talking about? You know you want to suck my D, B-word, don't effing lie." Faith started to cry and tried to leave, while Pac continued yelling and insulting her. He supposedly said something about Biggie and the East Coast, to which Faith responded, "But I thought y'all were friends. You know you want to be my B-word." Faith then left and drove to her friend with a limo. She was crying the whole time. Afterwards, she drove back to the Peninsula Hotel to meet with Pac again. At the lobby of the hotel, she called Pac saying that she's waiting downstairs and waiting for a check, to which Pac responded, "Oh, word? I'll be down there in a minute." After 20 minutes, he still didn't come. So she called again and he responded, "Oh, word?" The next couple of times she called Pac, he didn't pick up. He never came down to give her the money. That's when Faith knew that she had to get out of LA. In Faith's first account, there was never a mention of Tupac's harassment. She only said that he was always nice to her, even the last time they met. While Pac was alive, she never said anything bad about him. But after his death, she switched up her story and Tupac all of a sudden became the same filthy animal that supposedly assaulted Ayanna Jackson. But her story doesn't make any sense. Why would she go back to the same hotel room to meet the man who harassed and intimidated her? She was all alone. I mean, she was already crying and scared to death. Her staying for over an hour in his hotel room is also very suspicious. Also, why didn't she file a lawsuit for defamation and sexual harassment? Or call the cops? He would have been sent back to prison if she had won the case. But there were actual witnesses there who confirmed Pac's side of the story. No one has ever stepped forward as a witness to support Faith's claims. Her stories are very inconsistent and don't line up with the evidence we have. We have proof that the recording of the song and the immediate drive to Pac's hotel room, which Faith talked about, happened on October 19th. So let's say he really harassed and threatened her. Faith just got the dates mixed up. Why did she spend a whole night with him at the same table during the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack release party on November 14th, which is a whole month later? No one in their right mind would sit next to a filthy animal like that if he really sexually harassed her. And she also posed for pictures. It doesn't add up, cause once again, she said that Pac was always nice to her. And there was never a mention of Pac's harassment until 14 years later. And until then, she always claimed that they never even were in a studio together.
Situation with me and Tupac, there really never was a situation. I mean, we met, he was really nice. I mean...
It was strictly business, no pleasure.
It wasn't even business. It would have been business, but it never got that far.
It was you and somewhere else, and then it was moved on to his project, supposedly.
Pretty much.
Okay.
It never was moved on, and my voice is not on his album.
Okay.
But all the stories that he concocted and all that, I mean, he ain't got to do that.
Okay.
I mean, if they got beef with each other, him and Big, then they're two men. They need to go at each other and not, you know what I'm saying?
In her book, she stated that she immediately flew back to New York and then got a call from Jennifer, who was working for Bad Boy. "Yo, have you heard? Big is pissed off. Him and Puff are wilding out right now." The rumors of Faith and Pac's affair had made their way to New York. Within hours, Biggie called Faith's hotel room. "What the F is going on?" he screamed. "Listen, I don't know what you heard, but..." Big then interrupted her, yelling, "You effing with Tupac?" "Hell no," she yelled. "I told you I did a song with him." "And then what happened?" Big asked. "Nothing, I swear to God, nothing." "Faye, don't effing lie to me. Why are people saying this?" "I don't know. Big, but you know I would never..." Big then hung up the phone. She lied to Big, saying that she would never cheat on him. But in her book, she confessed, "I hadn't been completely innocent. While I was in Los Angeles, I had sex occasionally with Terry Dollars. And I'd even seen Roger, the NBA player. a few times when he was in town. So technically, I had cheated on Big, but not with Tupac. She even said occasionally, multiple times with multiple men, and this was just in LA. The whole time she was pretending to be the pure, innocent and loyal wife who gets wrongfully accused of cheating on her husband. But she did cheat on him according to herself. And she never told Biggie about it until the day he died. And they even had a kid together after the whole cheating.
I'm pregnant by Big because that was my husband and that was the only person that I was laying with. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
Regardless to whatever's going on with us, you know, he's still a married man. He all on the radio talking about he's sleeping with this one and that one and, you know, and that's not right. Even if I was involved with somebody, I wouldn't be out doing it like that, you know,
No
especially not when I'm carrying this man's baby.
I used to fuck mad niggas when I was little. That's why dick don't really do shit for me now. Like, your dick don't really
After that phone conversation, Faith took a shower to clear her head. She then wrapped herself in a towel and then heard a loud banging at her front door. Big was yelling and aggressively trying to break into her hotel room.
Big, go downstairs. You know you're pretty by now. Big, get the hell out. Big, get the hell out, man.
As soon as Faith opened the door, Big rushed inside and grabbed her by her shoulder, yelling, "What the F is wrong with you? You F Tupac?" Faith tried to break free and started crying. "Hell no," she said. "You have to believe me." Big's friend Damien had come with him and was standing in the corner of the room. "Damien, please tell me what's going on," Faith said. Damien stayed silent the whole time. "Why is this guy saying this ish? Huh? Faye? Why?" Big pushed her to the floor and she covered her head with her arms, while he continued to scream and curse at her. After about 10 minutes, it was over. He stormed out, leaving her on the ground, sobbing and hysterical. Faith realized that she walked into Tupac's trap and that he used her to hurt Biggie. And Big was done with her. Got even closer with Charlie Baltimore after that. And there were rumors that she was going to be her replacement. Then he saw the pictures of Pac and Faith together, saw that she wasn't wearing her wedding ring, and showing off her ringless hand to the camera. Pac's facial expression was also very provocative, and they were all hugged up like a couple. Big would always insult her in front of others, and would approach her multiple times out of anger to get some answers. According to Puffy's bodyguard Gene Deal, he choked her and yelled at her when she was supposed to perform during one of her shows. There were other incidences where he would try to talk to her, but she would lock him out of the door in order to make sure that she doesn't get hurt, while Big was in a stage of rage and anger. She was denying the allegations and trickle-truthing Big. Every time he caught her in a lie, he would get mad again. Faith went on the radio to say that she's not seeing Tupac. But every other week, Pac would make a cheeky comment in the media calling her his girl or implying that they slept together. And this would obviously frustrate, sadden and infuriate Biggie. It was an emotional rollercoaster for him. On November 25th, Faith's vocals from Wonder Why They Call You B were replaced with the ones from the singer Jewel, the first lady of Death Row. There are rumors that Faith and Bad Boy threatened the label with legal action. But it's also possible that they just couldn't get the clearance for Faith's vocals, since Bad Boy and Death Row were enemies and would most likely not cooperate. Plus, according to Faith, she never received her money. On November 28th, Pac recorded the song Comrades, which features the Outlaws, Storm and Big Syke. It contains a couple jabs at Bad Boy Records.
Prepare for the motherfucking death flow, 'cause every rapper in the industry is history is death row. Not Bad Boy or so dead. If I make you bow before the ropes like the motherfuckers.
He wants to make Bad Boy bow before Death Row, and thinks that it's time for the next chapter, now that Biggie, Puffy and everyone else had their time to talk bad about Tupac while he was locked up. He also dedicates the last verse to all the quote-unquote tricks who he's trying to murder, while mentioning Bad Boy and the rapper The Brat, who did a song with Big in '94 called The B-Side. And Pac was basically taking aim at everyone that chose to do a song with him. 2 days later, on November 30th, Big Stretch from the Life Squad was shot and killed in a fatal high-speed car chase, exactly 1 year after the Quad Studio shooting. In the March 96 issue of The Source magazine, Tupac spoke on Stretch's death and gave his opinion on what happened. You know what happened? Rules of the game. What goes around comes around. Meaning dishonest acts against other people eventually catch up to the offender, meaning Stretch. So Pac basically said that he suffered the consequences of his own actions on the 1 year anniversary of the Quad Studio shooting. Cause Pac later blamed Stretch for him getting shot and the robbers getting away. He wanted Stretch to grab one of the robbers so that he can shoot him, expected some form of support and help, instead of him dropping like a sack of potatoes. So people use this statement right here as proof that Tupac thought that Stretch got shot because of the Quad Studio shooting, that he suffered the consequences of letting Pac down, and then later talking bad about him in the media. They also interpreted Pac's statements as a jab at Stretch. Cause in the Vibe magazine, Stretch was using the rules of the game as an argument against Tupac. And now Pac is referencing those same rules to say that Stretch got what he deserved. Cause Stretch had said, I want him to get a reality check. Recognize what the F he's doing. People on the streets live by rules, man. And that rule right there, that's a rule that's never to be broken. He implied that Pac broke the rules of the streets. Now Pac is directly responding to that comment, using the same words as Stretch. Know what happened? Rules of the game. What goes around comes around. I never had no violent thoughts towards Stretch at all. I just didn't want to F with him no more. But I didn't want to kill him. He's my dog. Once you my dog, you my dog. He got shot just like I got shot. Everybody believed it was just a random robbery when I got shot. This guy get killed, now random-ish don't happen. He basically said that the shooting involving Stretch was just as random and spontaneous as the Quad Studio shooting, which everyone now knows wasn't random at all. It was a planned setup, and Pac knew that. So this right here could be sarcasm, meaning he really put out a hit on Stretch and is now playing innocent like Puffy and Jimmy Henchman, doing interviews in magazines denying everything while everyone points their finger at them. But he could also just be playing with the idea of people thinking that he's powerful enough to put out hits on people. But it didn't seem like his death bothered him at all, even though he was his best friend at one point. Word on the street is that Stretch was killed for robbing a drug dealer for 10 keys of cocaine, which he refused to return. He had just produced the song Take It in Blood for the East Coast rap legend Nas, with whom Pac would later get into a beef with. But the bad boy camp probably speculated if Pac or the people from Death Row had anything to do with it, and if they would dare to do the same thing to him, cause Big and Stretch were real close, and Pac was mad at both of them. Plus, nobody knew what Suge would do next after losing his friend Big Jake, cause he blamed Puffy for his death. 2 days after Stretch got killed, meaning on December 2nd, Pac decided to diss him on the song Holla at Me, which was named that way because of Tupac's ex-girlfriend Desiree Smith's letter, in which he asked Tupac why Stretch is trying to holler at her. So Pac took that and indirectly told Stretch that he should holler at him instead of hollering at his ex-girlfriend. But Stretch had already passed at this point, so Pac was technically talking to a dead man. These lines are not only aimed at Biggie but also directed at Stretch, who he had known for way longer. Before he put out his debut album Tupacalypse Now, Pac had him on every album, made dozens of songs with him, let him produce tracks for his projects, and even made him a member of his group Thug Life. With It Was All a Scheme, You Infiltrated My Team and Sold a Dream, he's talking about the Thug Life movement that Stretch and Biggie became a part of. Pac had his dreams crushed after that shooting. The people from the Thug Life movement, who were supposed to look out for him and be ready to put their lives on the line for their brothers, abandoned him and let him fight those robbers on his own. Didn't even help him to find the people who did it, when the whole purpose of the movement was to save and help each other. That was Pac's dream. The dream people like Stretch and Biggie sold him when they joined his movement. Pac is asking Stretch how he could just watch them shoot and beat him unconscious, when they all gave their word to fight for each other, and to defend each other with their lives. He said Stretch dropped like a sack of potatoes, even though he was the biggest guy there, saying that Stretch and his family would still be living in the streets if he wouldn't have given him a chance to make money. Same with Biggie. Big would have went back to selling drugs to make enough money to raise his daughter, who was on the way. Pac was the one who took him on shows so that he can make some quick cash until his deal with Puffy works out. He gave both Stretch and Biggie money to eat and paid their bills as they were broke. He always looked out for them and gave them money when needed, took them on all his shows, had Stretch on all his albums, and even moved Stretch's family into his residence. Again about Stretch getting weak knees when the robbers pulled out their guns, and he just followed their orders not knowing what to do. Stretch felt like it would have been suicide if he had tried to fight back, cause he didn't have a gun, nor is he able to dodge bullets. Pac was the only one bold enough to counterattack. But you could also interpret these lines as shots against Biggie, blaming him for being too scared to open his mouth and tell him who did it, fearing the consequences of speaking up. Pac was not only disappointed, but he had also lost his respect for them, to the point where squashing the beef was impossible, as he could never see himself being their friends again. He also said this in the March 96 issue of the Source magazine. Stretch was my closest road dog, my closest homie. I did a lot of drama. I got into a lot of cases in Ish because of Stretch. Money-wise, he could have had anything. His daughter was my daughter. Whatever she wanted, she could have. Then this Ish happened and the guy didn't write for me. He didn't do what your dog is supposed to do when you shut up. When I was in jail, he never wrote me, never got at me. His homeboys was coming to see me and he wasn't coming to see me. And he started hanging around Biggie right after this. I'm in jail, shut up, his main dog, and he hanging out and going to shows with Biggie. Both these guys never came to see me. There were rumors on the street that Stretch sold Pac out for money, that he worked for Jimmy Henchman, and that's supposedly why he was the one relaying messages for him. That's why they went directly at Pac instead of the big guy, meaning Stretch. And that's why he continued to hang out with Bad Boy, who on the other hand continued to hang out with Jimmy Henchman. But Majesty, who's the brother of Stretch, denied it, saying that they were in shock and surprised when Jimmy Henchman got the number of their mother, cause Jimmy called their mom's crib, possibly to intimidate them, showing them that they know where their mom lives, and that they can reach her whenever they want, and they would have never worked with someone who threatened their mother. The last two lines of the first verse could be interpreted as Pac alluding to the rumors of Stretch selling him out for money. These lines are directed at both Stretch and Big. Fear wasn't their only motive when they let him down, according to Pac, saying that it was their greed for money that led them to trap or set up his friend during the robbery. He talked about this in the 96 Vibe interview.
And I feel as though he wronged you. You got out of hand and you wronged me. You got seduced by the power. Not because he's an evil person, but because money is evil if it's not handled right. If you lose your composure, you could do anything. And he fear got stronger than love. And they know they weren't supposed to do.
Then in the hook, he flips it and says that he must stay sharp and alert so that he doesn't fall prey to the things that greed for money brings. Pac wants to stay sharp so that he recognizes his friends with ulterior motives or hidden agendas, in order to make sure that something similar to the Quad Studio robbery doesn't happen again. Pac had developed trust issues and questioned everybody that was close to him, cut ties with most of the people he knew, as he felt like he couldn't even trust his childhood friends. That's why he started saying trust nobody during his time in prison.
I would tell each and every person out there, don't forget about that clicking up thing, you know what I mean? Be to yourself. Stay to yourself. Trust nobody. Trust nobody. My closest friends did me in. My closest friends, my homies, people who I done took care of their whole family. I done took care of everything for them, looked out for them, put them in the game, everything turned on me.
Therefore, anyone who's going to be down with Pac better holler at him, to let him know that he can trust him. That's the message of the song. This right here is a play on words and also confirmation that he's addressing Stretch. Stretch was part of the group Live Squad together with his brother Majesty. Being live means being bold, fearless and respected. Pac is questioning that now that he saw him in Fear during the Quad Studio shooting. He can never be live because he's a quote-unquote coward that pretends to be hard but folds under pressure. But it could also be a double entendre, since Stretch passed away. He can never be live or alive because he's dead. These lines could also be a response to Biggie, cause on the song Who Shot Ya, Puffy kept yelling "Get Live" in the intro, interlude and outro. This is obviously about him standing up after getting shot 5 times and then going upstairs to see everybody's faces, including Jimmy Henchman, Puffy, Andre Harrell and the other 40 people who were up there. A couple days after Pac's single California Love with Dr. Dre came out, Pac got confronted by a couple of Keefe D's homies. Again, Keefe D was the Southside Crip that Puff Daddy hired as additional security to keep an eye on Suge Knight and the Mob Piru. Pac had a line in that song that upset the Crips, recognized from Long Beach to Rosecrans. The Crips had a problem with that line because Pac was referring to the areas around Long Beach Boulevard and Rosecrans Avenue in Compton, which is the territory of the Mob Piru Bloods, the gang that Suge and most people working for Death Row were affiliated with, rivals of the Southside Crips and the people that Puffy wanted to keep in check. The Crip Big Syke, who was Pac's friend at the time, de-escalated the situation. I gave a detailed description of what happened in the Tupac murder documentary. Make sure to check it out. Tupac tattooed the acronym MOB on his inner right upper arm. The acronym stands for 2 things according to Tupac himself: money over bees and money, organization and business. He referenced it on numerous songs recorded in '96, like for example Blasphemy, Hit 'Em Up, Changed Man, Worldwide Mob Figures, MOB, the list goes on and on. People to this day are still unsure if MOB was more than just an acronym that Tupac created, cause MOB can also mean Mafia, a criminal organization, an acronym for members of Bloods, or a reference to the Mob Piru. You can't make songs and call yourself MOB or any other gang name without gang members confronting you. So the Mob Piru members associated with Death Row knew what he was doing and were fine with it. Some say he got that tattoo to get the Pirus on his side, basically as an army to ride with him in his wars, cause Pac felt like the whole world was against him. He was in the middle of the East Coast-West Coast war. Suge, a Mob Piru member, got him out of prison and got him a second chance in life. So it could have also been loyalty towards Suge. Puffy, on the other hand, relied on the Southside Crips, meaning Keefe D and his people. Pac had Piru members as a security around him, and made himself a target against the Southside Crips. He not only became part of Suge's bloody war with Puffy, in which people like the Piru member Big Jake, one of Suge's friends, got killed by one of Puffy's associates, but the Southsiders around Puff were also beefing with the Pirus. So the wolves that Pac and Puffy had around them as security were fighting a bloody war of which Pac couldn't get out of. He more or less got dragged into a gang war without being a real gang member. And things got worse day by day. It wasn't just a hip-hop rivalry anymore. Both sides were constantly receiving death threats. The Crips would approach Pac and the Bloods would approach Puffy. Around the same time, Biggie and Junior Mafia filmed the music video to their hit record Get Money. Big was asked about the whole friction between the East and West Coast, and also about his beef with Tupac.
I'm just here to make music, man. That's it.
Right.
I don't know East Coast, West Coast, none of that. I'm on Big and Junior Mafia. Just trying to make some paper, man. People in the West Coast, my love. You know what I'm saying? Do y'all thing. We're going to do our thing. We're going to continue to do our thing.
You a what? Bad boy killers.
On December 12th, Pac recorded the song F 'Em All, together with his outlaws calling themselves Bad Boy Killers. In the intro, Pac tells Biggie to put his hands up.
Hey yo, Big, put your hands up.
Taking a common saying from the police, put your hands where I can see them, and using it to belittle his rival Biggie, who's lyrically being held at gunpoint, cornered by Pac and his outlaws. He asks him to surrender and bow down to his greatness, telling Bad Boy to bow down to Death Row, while calling himself a notorious Biggie killer.
Notorious Biggie killer, affiliation with Death Row. Get they cat peeled back, food is the West Coast.
He wanted to show the East Coast that the West Coast is superior, during a time when the media couldn't stop using the phrase East Coast-West Coast War as a headline for their magazines. So he was obviously fine with that and was in full war mode, ready to take on the whole coast if he has to. 3 days later, on December 15th, just 3 months after Big Jake got shot in Atlanta, there was another incident that changed the beef between Puffy and Suge forever. Death Row Records was having a Christmas party at a home in the Hollywood Hills, and a record promoter from New York named Mark Anthony Bell, who was close to Puffy, decided to attend, which led to him getting beaten up and threatened by Suge, Tupac and the Mob Piru. They wanted to know the exact location of Puff Daddy's home in L.A., so that they can pay him a visit and rough him up. Mark Bell refused to cooperate and got beaten up pretty badly. Suge even tried to force him to drink a glass filled with his urine, just to humiliate him. I have touched on this incident in my Tupac murder documentary. There you can find out what exactly happened that night and hear the story in full detail. When Puffy found out about this incident, he panicked and was scared for his life, cause Mark Bell took the first flight back to New York, and Puffy was notified immediately. Suge and his people wanted retaliation not only for Big Jake's murder, but also for supposedly knowing about the plans of robbing Tupac at the Quad Studios. So both Biggie and Puffy were mad at them. Big had just seen the pictures of Pac and Faith together, with everybody spreading rumors of her cheating, and Puffy feared for his life. So he once again tried to get closer to Keefe D and the Southsiders, to make sure that they're always with him whenever he flies to the West Coast. The following day, on December 16th, 1995, Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound were in New York to shoot the music video for the song New York, New York, off the Dogg Pound's debut album Dog Food, which had just come out. It was released on October 31st. Biggie heard it and was upset when he found out that they used the beat for his Sanites commercial to make a West Coast banger called New York, New York.
I know you're thinking, well, goddamn, what he drinking? The cookie letter. No other beer feel better.
At the time, Biggie thought that the song New York, New York was supposed to be a diss towards him, the King of New York, and also to the city he was representing. Cause not only did they snatch his beat, but Death Row had just signed Tupac, who allegedly slept with his wife and is now making diss records. No one knew what was about to happen. Bad Boy was already competing with Death Row, so they saw the album Dog Food as a direct response to Biggie's Ready to Die, cause they were going head to head with their album sales. The sales of the Dogg Pound album were getting closer and closer to Ready to Die, and they ended up going double platinum way faster than Big. It took them less than 3 months, while it took Ready to Die more than a year. But the game still respected Biggie way more than the Dogg Pound. Rapping wise, he was just in a league of his own. Death Row was still superior in terms of record sales, but Bad Boy was getting closer and closer. Now with Tupac on board, with all the rumors that were going around, and with Pac's comments in the Vibe magazine, people on the East Coast were nervous about what the hothead Pac would do next. It was rumored that Pac, Snoop, the Dogg Pound and Dr. Dre would take the East Coast-West Coast beef to a whole new level, by using Pac's anger, passion and energy as ammo to fire at the East Coast. Back then, rappers and artists were shrouded in mystery. You would only hear from them when they would drop an album, a single or do an interview. You didn't know what these people were thinking or planning. They couldn't just make a tweet and make you understand what they feel like at this very moment. So nobody knew what was about to happen. Both sides were waiting on each other to drop an album, a single or an interview, where one side says something about the other, so that they can respond accordingly. And right now, only Tupac and Suge were the ones wilding out in interviews. So Biggie didn't know what the Dogg Pound or Snoop thought about him. Were they agreeing with Tupac's hateful comments towards Bad Boy, or were they just doing their own thing? Biggie didn't know what to expect, but he was cautious and paranoid. cause the man had just ruined his marriage. What is he going to do next? When Big heard that the people from Death Row came to New York to shoot a music video, he thought of the worst, thinking that Pac will shoot the music video to one of his diss tracks against him, in New York. Make fun of him in New York in his own territory, showing New Yorkers that he can do anything he wants, that the West Coast is on top, and that the East Coast can't do anything about it. No one wanted to get humiliated and disrespected like that. Especially as the King of New York, he couldn't allow them to do that. He thought he's going to make a music video bragging about sleeping with his wife, while walking through the streets of New York like cowboys, like bosses, as if they owned the place. So he felt like he had to do something, cause he knew how disrespectful Pac could be if he wanted to. A day prior, they beat up the New York record promoter trying to find out where Puffy lives. And now they're in New York doing God knows what. So everyone was on high alert, even though Pac wasn't even there. This video shoot was only for Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound, who were actually friends with Big before Pac got signed to the label. The video set in New York was heightened when the set was fired upon after New Yorkers felt they were being disrespected, when West Coast hip-hop artists flew to New York to film a music video in the middle of the East Coast-West Coast war. The video was originally going to be a dedication to New York, but they thought they would do the exact opposite. The Notorious B.I.G. called up the Hot 97 radio station with Funkmaster Flex and instigated the incident. According to Snoop Dogg, Biggie was the one who called the shots on him, cause they went to see Funk Flex earlier that day to show love and respect, and to say, DPG, we're here shooting a video. We need all you New York rappers to come F with us, cause we love y'all. We're shooting a video at Times Square. We're shooting at Red Hook. Come get down with us. That's what Snoop and the Dogg Pound wanted to say on the radio, but Funk Flex wouldn't let them in. They then headed to the video shoot, and Big called up Hot 97 to speak to Flex and everyone listening. On air, he said, "There's a Tupac Dogg Pound video in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Brooklyn, stand up. How dare they come out here and record a video dissing New York?" Biggie's main motivation was to get Tupac. The situation between them was so heated that he didn't care about the consequences of those comments, calling for action as the voice of Brooklyn, while the entire city is listening. He most likely did it out of anger towards Tupac, when he wasn't even there. And there's a rumor that Puffy later went to Hot 97 in order to get rid of the evidence that Biggie called the shots on Tupac. And that's supposedly why there's no recording of Biggie calling up the radio and making those comments, cause Big could have gotten in trouble for that. Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound were all out in the snow in front of the bricks shooting the video, and by the time they went back to the trailer, someone was shooting at it. The trailer got riddled with bullets, but luckily none of them got hit. The Death Row bodyguard Frank Alexander got him out of there safe. He and the Death Row head of security, Reggie Wright, said that Snoop and the Dogg Pound were scared like quote-unquote little B-words. When they flew back to LA, they told everyone what happened. Pac and Suge were heated. Sending people and trying to kill artists was a line that they hadn't crossed yet. It became a life or death situation. Both sides were now expecting their enemies to do it again. Catch the other side off guard. Send goons to attack the artists or people associated with them. Put out hits on people and ambush them the first chance they get. The question was, who will fold under the pressure and cross the line first? And how will the other side respond? Snoop, the Dogg Pound and Pac were now in F New York mode. They finished the rest of the music video for New York, New York in LA using a green screen. What was supposed to be a dedication to New York, in which they show the beauty of the Mecca of hip-hop, became a disrespectful declaration of war, with them kicking over buildings and walking through the city like Godzilla, trying to cause chaos and destruction. You might remember the July 95 Source magazine cover where they crowned Biggie the King of New York, with him standing next to the World Trade Center while being depicted as a giant the same size as Godzilla. Now fast forward to December 95. Snoop and the Dogg Pound are about the same size as him in the music video, stomping on New York while kicking over their buildings, and again using the same beat as the one for Biggie's commercial. Definitely a subliminal shot at Big, but more importantly an act of disrespect towards the Mecca of hip-hop. Pac was really fed up with New York, cause everything he went through happened in New York. Him getting robbed, threatened by gangsters, getting shot, getting accused of assault, and then also Snoop and the Dogg Pound getting their trailer riddled with bullets. All the people who were dissing him and sending shots, everything somehow happened in New York. Every time he goes there, there's trouble. So he was just done. Completely. New Yorkers took offense to the song and made response records to lyrically defend themselves. Like Capone and Noriega's L.A. for example, which also featured Tragedy Gaddafi and Mobb Deep, initially rapping over the same beat the Dogg Pound used. And in the video, they even kidnapped them and threw them over a bridge. Around that same time, Pac and the Dogg Pound recorded the New York diss song NY87 with rappers like Deadly Threat and DJ Quick. The song is going at multiple East Coast rappers such as Biggie, Mobb Deep, J-Ro the Damager, Tragedy Gaddafi, Channel Live, and A Tribe Called Quest. You can hear DJ Quick in the intro declaring war on the East Coast.
Yo, this is DJ Quick. Taking a second out with the Dogg Pound to let y'all know something. If you're looking in the Source mag and don't see me, it's because them niggas on the East is the enemy.
Corrupt and Daz then basically sum up what happened at the New York video shoot, paraphrasing what Big said on the radio to prevent the Dogg Pound from shooting the video in his city, saying that they can't come to New York to shoot videos and that New Yorkers should go kill them, basically accusing Biggie of conspiracy to commit murder, similar to what Pac accused him of after the Quad Studio shooting.
Hey yo, God, the heads is tripping out in New York. Yo, money they can't come down here and shoot no video.
Then they're calling Biggie out by name, saying that he shall holla at Tupac, similar to what Tupac said in the song Holla at Me, where he told his old friends Stretch and Biggie to reach out to him to settle their differences one way or the other. Then they addressed the rumor that had been spreading for the past couple of weeks about Tupac sleeping with Biggie's wife Faith Evans. The Dogg Pound confirmed that those rumors are true. They then asked Biggie and his people if they really want to go to war with them, saying that the same people that set Tupac up tried to set up Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound as well, once again accusing Biggie of setting Pac up. The intro ends with them saying that they might also have sex with Faith Evans as well, just like Pac, cause Biggie was saying that they can't come to New York unless they bring him a gift. And the Dogg Pound wants to send back his wife with $350 worth of you-know-what down her throat, using her and then sending her back as a gift to Biggie. Corrupt then starts off by naming all the people on the East Coast he's cool with and explains how they influenced him as an MC. Then he uses slick wordplay to diss some of the new rappers and rap groups that came to the forefront during the time when the East Coast-West Coast beef really started to get out of control.
Now who the fuck is this I hear on the radio? Dissing me, B-I-double-G-I to the E.
Then he touches on the incident of Biggie getting on the radio with Funk Flex to diss Pac, Snoop and the Dogg Pound before the New York video shoot, saying that he didn't expect to get dissed by a guy like Biggie who he always admired, calling him the deadliest force in New York, the person the city listens to. Because that's what ultimately led to their trailer getting shot up. All it took was Biggie to hop on the radio and say something.
I found he's the deadliest force in the world where it's all about glamour, fame and fortune. And next time you hit LA, then you'll be mashed.
They're basically threatening Biggie that there'll be severe consequences if he decides to come to LA. They are ready to return the favor now that they got chased out of New York. Biggie did actually try to come to LA numerous times, and there were always problems for him. They made sure that he can never feel safe there again. The whole reason why Diddy got close with the Southside Crips and Keefe D. But more on that later.
Rap stars that think they got me. I'm on some Superman-ish now, they shouldn't have shot me.
Pac starts off by calling out quote-unquote all the dogs and phony rap stars who think that they got rid of him, meaning the robber Dexter Isaac and his two friends, Jimmy Henchman, Haitian Jack, Puffy, Biggie, Lil Sean and Stretch, who quote-unquote picked the side of his enemy.
Move, motherfucker, till they feel me.
This is probably the only song in which Tupac said F New York and not a specific artist. They were all fed up. From that point on, they would always bring dozens of security guards with them every time they went to New York. They didn't feel safe there, just like how the people from Bad Boy didn't feel safe in LA. Pac also felt like radio hosts on the East Coast like Funkmaster Flex weren't really respecting West Coast MCs. They obviously had an East Coast bias. Were also mad that they wouldn't let Snoop Dogg and the Dogg Pound get on Hot 97, but then accepted calls from Biggie. The fans were also picking sides, and with them being hotheads at the time, they went on the offensive instead of trying to work things out and make peace. The last song Pac made in '95 where he's talking about Biggie is No More Pain, which was recorded on December 18th. A lot of gun bars and threats on this one, challenging his jealous adversaries to pull out their guns and blast, promising that he'll murder them. He wants retaliation for what they did to him in New York, calling his shooters and the people involved cowards. In the outro, he then talks about Biggie, starting off by saying, "Come put your mouth on the pistol." The same thing Big said on Who Shot Ya. Oh yeah, to the cowards, you know who I mean. It's still Bad Boy Killer. Fat mother effers, got Down syndrome mother effers, weak ass people, dancers turned effing CEOs. These lines are obviously against Biggie and Puffy. And he said those things in the first version of the song Hit 'Em Up as well, saying that Biggie is a cross-eyed crack baby with Down syndrome. Dancers turned CEOs. Suge Knight was mocking Puffy for that at the '95 Source Awards as well.
Any artists out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing, come to Death Row.
Then he responds to the people saying that prison has changed him and messed him up mentally, and that it made him go out of control. Pac believes that prison didn't change him at all, it only made him worse. So all these negative thoughts he had about Biggie, Puffy and Bad Boy prior to going to prison only got worse by him sitting back and thinking everything through, putting all the pieces of the puzzle together in the quest for answers. Now he's giving people the opportunity to pick a side, either with him or against him. And he's ready to go to war against anyone that picks the opposite side. In '96, the entire Death Row family continued making diss records about the East Coast. Snoop Dogg was expected to respond as he was technically the biggest rapper on the label at the time. And he recorded a song called Keep It Real Dog, which contains a couple of lines that were aimed at Biggie.
Be on the red eye, you're fat, you're black, you're whack, your style is toe up, plus you got one dead eye.
The line about the dead eye is obviously about Biggie's lazy eye. The entire Death Row crew made fun of him for that. It wasn't just Tupac, cause in recent interviews Snoop, Dre and the Dogg Pound always make it seem like Pac was the only one that's out of control. That he was the only one that really went at Biggie. They were all doing it, but later blamed it on the dead man who's not here anymore to defend himself. Rewriting history and pushing the entire blame onto Tupac. I mean, he was definitely the driving force behind it, but everyone else took a part in it. Tupac then put himself on a Dogg Pound song called Don't Stop, which originally featured the East Coast rapper Nas. Pac took out Nas's verse and put himself on it to diss Biggie. He wanted to stop giving East Coast rappers a platform. This was around the time Tupac didn't tolerate any form of shout-out to the East Coast. Cause Tupac and the Outlaws beat up Dr. Dre's ghostwriter Jay Flex and his homies after they gave Brooklyn a shout-out on one of their songs. And they did the same to the rapper Sam Snead after he put rappers from the East Coast in his music video. Sam Snead and Jay Flex were all Death Row associates. But they still got beaten up. Pac took it very seriously. More on that in my Dr. Dre and Tupac beef analysis. So yeah, Tupac didn't want to give East Coast rappers any more promo or exposure.
Bad boy killer, Biggie annihilated, they wondering why he breathing, but
calling himself a bad boy killer and Biggie annihilator, saying that he'll kill Biggie, that he shall enjoy his last days on planet Earth, because one day he'll come get him, hitting him with 2 Glocks and leaving him with scar tissue.
Better laugh now, then cry when I come to get you. I hit you with 2 Glocks and leave you with scar tissue.
He wants to go one-on-one with Biggie, lyrically or physically, doesn't matter, promising that he'll kill him regardless of where he wants to take it, gunplay, fistfight or rap battle. But this verse mainly focuses on gun talk, saying that he'll spill Biggie's brain and that another bad boy affiliated rapper was killed.
Shots rang and brains was spilled. Another bad boy affiliated with him was killed.
And he doesn't stop there. He wants to go to his funeral and also kill everyone associated with him. Everyone who came there to pay their respects, showing that he has no mercy for any of them, and that he's ready to fight dirty.
I hit the funeral room and busted his folks and leave the scene like a shadow in the blaze of smoke. Where's the bomb? Quick to unload, expose my foes for being keeping the inches, 2 Glocks full of ammo. My army fatigues ready for battle, lyrical commando. Let's get it on.
Daz also produced Pac's song First to Bomb, where he's going at Biggie, Puffy and the East Coast as a whole.
I kick him all day, and my motto make Biggie Smalls pay. I make it rough enough, you Puffy taller weight. First to bomb, right out the gate, again up your side.
They also recorded Only Move for the Money together. On January 7th, 1996, the music video to Junior Mafia's hit single Get Money was released, and it featured the rapper Charlie Baltimore dressed up as Biggie's wife, Faith Evans. Big and Faith were still separated and had little to no contact. He was sending subliminal shots towards her in that video, kissing Charlie Baltimore on the lips, making his infidelity public at a time when everyone accused Faith of cheating, showing the world that he replaced her with a woman that looks just like her. Same hair color, same outfit, same looks. But again, in the video she's supposed to depict Faith Evans, and they're showcasing their tumultuous relationship, which ultimately leads to Biggie kicking her out the house, subliminally telling everyone that he and Faith are no more, showing them that he got his masculinity back, after Pac tried to emasculate him and destroy his player image. This was Biggie's strategy to counter Pac's efforts in the most passive way possible. He wanted to show the world that he's indeed a player, someone who can get a new girl by just snapping with his fingers. Show people that Faith is replaceable, that players don't simp for any woman, especially not cheaters, that they just move on to the next one. Showing people that Pac didn't do any damage, that he's not even on his radar, that he's not the type to worry about a girl, as they're all lining up for him. There's nothing fake about the player image. Big is just making money and enjoying life, without a single thing to worry about. On January 9th, he then recorded the song Homeboys, on which he said,
It's a goddamn shame. Somebody explain why they send a bad boy to play a grown man's game.
This is actually an advice that he got from Suge Knight. He said Pac picking on Bad Boy, Biggie and Puffy is like a grown man picking on little kids who can't defend themselves. He's asking them why they're trying to play a grown man's game. They shall stay in their lane, or Pac will quote-unquote tear that ass out the frame. On January 12th, Pac recorded a song called If My Enemies Love Their Kids, which contains shots at Puffy.
Why have drama? If your baby mama stay right around the corner, I can touch it if I want.
Pac is mocking Puff by pointing out Suge's relationship with Puffy's baby mama Misa Hylton, saying that Pac could sleep with her too if he wanted to.
So why you wanna insist that this? I got your name at the top of the fucking damn hit list.
Puffy is on the top of Pac's kill list. This whole song is basically a warning and a death threat.
You don't wanna die, and I don't wanna kill you. Keep my name out your mouth for it and after jail. All my enemies, brother. For the shit that they did, don't make me murder you.
A day later, on January 13th, Pac recorded the song He vs. She with the rapper Storm. It contains shots at Biggie, Puffy, Lil' Kim, Da Brat, Lil Sean and LL Cool J. Again, the whole reason why Pac went at L is because of the song I Shot Ya, which was a response to Biggie's Who Shot Ya. Pac thought LL was going at him too, so that's why he kept sending shots at him in response. But his main targets were of course the people associated to Bad Boy.
Now when I say Big, you say B.I.G. When I say Bad Boy Killer, then you say me. When I say Puffy, it's a punk, you scream word of my life. I wrote this bitch off fucking Big's wife.
Calling Biggie a pig and Puffy a punk while also bragging about sleeping with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans. They also had lines for Lil' Kim and the Breads.
Now I've been told that Lil' Kim thinks she hot.
She not.
Better get that attitude adjusted for one mash your slut.
Plus now the Brad's true.
Must want an ass whipping.
We be the first ones to fuck with you and Bad Boy.
This was a direct response to the Breads' line in Total song No One Else.
The decoy watch Brad kill and destroy. You the last one to but so deaf and bad boy.
We be the first ones to fuck with you and Bad Boy. Bustin' through Brooklyn, looking my shots to Queens. Cause I'm looking for Lil Sean, that jazz fiend.
Lil Sean was one of the people that were present during the Quad Studio shooting. And the only person who tried to help him according to Tupac himself. The only one that shed tears for him. But in the Vibe interview, he called Pac stupid and a liar for saying that he was crying the whole time. So that's why he kept dissing Sean.
I bet scream like last year. Let's don't come to California, we don't want your buster ass here.
On January 14th, the previously mentioned New York Times article with Pac talking about his relationship with Faith Evans came out and brought back quite a bit of emotions for Biggie, since he kept learning new things about his wife's relationship with his biggest enemy. Things that she kept a secret from him. Faith never told him that she was actually that close with Pac, that she would buy him trunks full of gifts. Big just couldn't catch a break. Pac would always reopen his wounds by making fun of him and his wife in the media. In magazines, in newspapers, on the radio, on TV. He couldn't escape it. What made it even worse is that the only times he would speak to her, he would catch her in lies, as she was only trickle-truthing him. This was also around the time Faith saw the video to Get Money, where she's getting dissed. Faith got mad when she saw the video, and they sent each other messages to talk about it. Cause they had went low contact after she caught him cheating, and then they went no contact after the incident with Pac happened. Biggie called Faith to come visit him in New Orleans, so that they can talk it out. They had an argument and fight in winter '96, which somehow led to Faith's pregnancy. Biggie's son Christopher Jordan Wallace, who was born 9 months later on October 29th. At the time, people were speculating if the kid might have been Tupac's. But that would have been impossible since the two never saw each other after November '95. Big and Faith agreed to co-parent their child once he's born, but their relationship never recovered. Tupac ruined Big's marriage, regardless of Big believing his claims of sleeping with his wife. The trust and spark was gone. Big thought of the possibility that she might have cheated on him as revenge for him cheating with Lil' Kim and Charlie Baltimore. But according to Lil' C's, he did later believe Faith's version of the story, that she didn't sleep with him. But the gossip on the streets made it impossible for him to just move on and to continue being all lovey-dovey with her. Nobody believed Faith's side of the story, except Big. But Big also said that he always believed that Pac is the realest guy in the industry. It wasn't just anyone making those claims. Things just couldn't go back to how they were. The image of Big and Faith being hip-hop's dream couple was crushed. And Big was seen as a weak man who wifed up a promiscuous cheater that would open her legs even for his biggest enemies, and then come back to play the innocent and faithful wife. So he couldn't stay with her, even if Pac was a liar. Pac had successfully convinced the entire world that he slept with Biggie's wife, and the baby that was on the way made things 10 times more complicated. So in the end they decided to stay friends, but they wanted to stay in separate places, with Faith promising him that she'll stay faithful and focus on the kid. Big, on the other hand, continued to see other women. They didn't know if they wanted to get divorced yet. The media and fans continued to bombard them with questions, being a nuisance during her entire pregnancy.
Press the media was like, oh, so, alright, she stopped with Big, she stopped with Tupac. I'm not no different than any other. You know, everybody has a temper. Nobody will never know the truth. You know what I'm saying? It's all up to me. Am I going to hate her for the rest of her life, thinking that she did something? Or am I just going to be a man about the situation and let's just go on with our lives? You know, personally, I was angry. I knew that I was at the hospital with his mother when he had got shot in that studio. And why are you doing that?
Later on, in the September 96 issue of the Vibe magazine, Biggie said, "People was like, when she stopped effing with Big, she started effing with Tupac, and Big started effing with Lil' Kim. That's the summary of the Biggie Smalls Faith ish right there. But we wasn't effing with each other way before the rumors popped off. I married her after knowing her for 8 days, and I was happy. That was my baby. At the same time, with us being so spontaneous, we did it backwards. Maybe she won't admit it, but I will. We should have got to know each other and then got married. The relationship kind of dissolved, but we're still going to be friends. I love her. We have a baby together, and we are always gonna love our kids. Who knows? 10 years from now, we might even get back together." Big implied that the marriage failing was partly his fault. It would have happened regardless of Pac's involvement. On January 18th, Pac then recorded the song This Life I Lead, where he once again calls himself a bad boy killer.
Bad boy killer.
On January 19th, Tupac and the Outlaws went to the House of Blues to see the rap group Onyx perform. There they met the rapper Keith Murray, the guy who was not only on the first version of Who Shot Ya, but also on LL Cool J's I Shot Ya, and also on the remix of course. Pac wanted to know if they were dissing him. Pac's homie Big Syke was actually the one that approached him, while Onyx was performing on stage. Fred Rose Starr saw Pac and Keith Murray come face to face, and the two started yelling at each other. Keith denied that Pac was their target. Biggie unknowingly caused a lot of conflicts between Pac and various rappers from the East Coast, just with one song alone. That's how powerful and controversial it was. Cause again, I Shot Ya was a response to Who Shot Ya. But they made peace that day, and Pac was definitely relieved, cause he never really wanted to go to war with LL Cool J. But he still saw everyone on I Shot Ya as potential enemies. That included Prodigy from Mobb Deep, Foxy Brown from Nas's group The Firm, and everyone else who was in that music video. Cause the song was actually supposed to be something like a New York anthem, with all the different cliques coming together. And Pac initially thought that all the cliques from New York were coming together to diss him, and to side with Biggie during the East Coast-West Coast war. Cause Pac had become the face of the West Coast and Biggie the face of the East Coast. So he thought I Shot Ya was a part 2 to Big's Who Shot Ya. But Keith Murray denied it and prevented it from escalating any further. Cause as you could hear on the song NY87, Pac was in F New York mode. And he was ready to diss everybody if he had to. On the song Never Call You B Again, which he recorded 12 days later on January 31st, he mentioned his beef with the East Coast. He explicitly said East Coast, cause he was ready to take on everybody.
Can't get too close, my enemies, they see ghosts, they envy me. Plus we've been beefing with the East Coast, who got deep.
That same day, he recorded the song Breathing, where he said,
Complete my mission, my competition no longer beefing. I didn't know them, just up now I'm the last monk of the streets.
The mission was to end the careers of his enemies on the East Coast, to outsell everyone in the game with his upcoming double album, while dropping the biggest diss records ever. He's murdering his competition, making him the last man standing, or in other words, the last man breathing. The second verse was unfinished, but he still mentioned Bad Boy and them preying on his downfall.
It's like I'm psychotic, I think that's what they tell me. Fuck around, I don't fight fair. Got every sign of bad boy, praying that I die. Some have prophesied homicide, some have tried, they couldn't see the coward in their eyes.
In the February 96 issue of the Vibe magazine, it seemed like Pac was trying to de-escalate the situation between him and Biggie. He was asked about the rumors of him sleeping with Faith Evans, to which Pac responded, "Me and Faith don't have no problems." When asked about their relationship beyond the studio, he replied, "I ain't gonna answer that ish, man. You know I don't kiss and tell." The whole energy he had on the first version of Hit 'Em Up somehow disappeared. Cause on that song he was actually bragging about it. He didn't want to put out any of the songs he made where he mentions Big's wife. And in interviews he was only implying it indirectly, trying to look like a serious businessman who's too classy to brag about it, only dropping hints and comments with double meanings behind them, so that the fans and the media could continue speculating. only saying things like, "Faith is my girl, I treated her good, and we don't have any problems." In the studio, he was way more reckless, saying things like, "I effed your wife." But those tapes didn't come out yet. He was holding them back and waiting for Biggie's next move. Things changed quickly after hearing the response from Biggie. Cause on February 3rd, they released the remix to Junior Mafia's hit single Get Money, which includes shots at Tupac. And this song was actually genius. When Biggie's wife, Faith Evans, came back to New York after spending time with Tupac, and after Big and Faith more or less reconciled in winter '96, she told Big about the beat Pac played for her, so that Big can prepare himself for what Pac has planned and then sabotage him. In the studio, Pac was hyping the beat up, saying that it'll be one of his biggest songs on his album. Lance Rivera, DJ Enough, and Biggie quickly recognized the sample Faith was talking about, the one Johnny J used for Hit 'Em Up. Cause again, Pac played it for her when they were in the studio together, and the sample was Don't Look Any Further, which they decided to use before Pac to sabotage him. They produced a similar beat to what Faith described, and used it for the Get Money remix, cause they knew that Pac's album was just about to drop. February 13th was the date for Pac's huge comeback, so they decided to drop the Get Money remix 10 days prior. Biggie wanted to put a song on the radio which sounded just like the track Pac wanted to put on All Eyez On Me, expecting that he'll use the beat Faith heard for his next single. They expected Hit 'Em Up to be on All Eyez On Me. So Big did the same thing he did in '94, when he used the same sample for Tupac's Time to Get My Drank On for his hit single Big Papa, before Tupac even has a chance to use that song. According to Lil C's, they knew that Pac would lyrically take aim at them on his next album All Eyez On Me. What they didn't know is that Pac used the beat Faith heard for a Biggie diss track, not for a club banger. Faith thought Hit 'Em Up would be a party record, and that's why Biggie and Junior Mafia wanted to turn it into a smooth, laid-back club record. But Pac, by this time, had already decided to exclude the first version of Hit 'Em Up from the album. He had actually given up on the idea to release it, thinking that he had humiliated Biggie enough already, with those pictures of Faith and Pac floating around, and the media turning it into the biggest topic in hip-hop. People were trying to tell Tupac to slow down, that it's all a misunderstanding, as Biggie would have never done anything sneaky like dissing him on a song like Who Shot Ya, and making fun of him for getting shot, and that the whole thing about Biggie setting him up is a misunderstanding, that Pac is attacking a man who's completely innocent, which makes him the one that's in the wrong, and they were all saying that Biggie is not even responding, that he wants peace. But the Get Money remix convinced him to go ahead with his initial plans to do the Hit 'Em Up song, cause he had scrapped the first version and didn't want to use it. Pac understood what Biggie and Puffy were trying to do with that remix. He understood that they were trying to sabotage him again, so he stopped having mercy for them. Her decision to tell Biggie and Puffy made Pac go back in the booth and redo the song, but this time more brutal. He even started insulting Faith, cause he knew that she was the one that told Big about the sample. Biggie was the first one to make a move, lyrically, cause none of the songs Tupac made about Biggie had been released so far. The Get Money remix was retaliation for what Pac did with Faith, but they once again kept it subliminal. The remix starts off with Lil C's asking Tupac and the Outlaws how they could possibly think that they could ever have a negative effect on Biggie, Junior Mafia, and the money they pull in, implying that they're unstoppable, and that they will forever continue to get gold and platinum plaques, regardless of who's trying to stop them.
How you figure that your team can affect my cream? Gold and platinum plaques since I stepped on the scene, now I mean.
Both Lil Kim and Lil C's have a verse on here, and that's part of the reason why they later became a target on Hit 'Em Up, cause the other members of Junior Mafia didn't get called out by names. They gave C's and Kim special attention. Big then comes in verse number 3, starting off with slick talk and double entendres.
All that and a bottle of Dom P. Can't harm me, I keep the on me.
This part right here includes 4 references. Dom P, obviously the alcoholic drink Dom Perignon, but also the name of Lil Sean's song, in which he sampled Biggie. Those two were also in the Dom Perignon music video next to people wearing henchman shirts. Again, Jimmy Henchman was the mastermind behind the Quad Studio shooting. Biggie was still hanging out with him after the shooting. And Little Sean was the guy Tupac was supposed to do a song with that night he got shot. Next, he uses the word army. The people who robbed Pac at the Quad Studios wore army fatigues. Not only that, but Big is also kinda talking about them as if they're his people. Which is what Tupac initially thought when he saw them, according to the Vibe magazine interview. Pac made it seem like the robbers could have been Biggie's homies. The accusations, of course, infuriated him. Cause Pac literally said they looked like Biggie's homies from Brooklyn. And Biggie plays with that in the next line, by asking, "Is Brooklyn in the house?" Immediately after using the word army, he uses the word Brooklyn. Was that a coincidence? Cause Pac's robbers in army fatigues were indeed from Brooklyn.
Can't harm me, I keep the army. Is Brooklyn in the house? Without a doubt.
He also said people can't harm him, in response to Tupac constantly taking jabs at him. And he was the main one doing it at the time. So these lines were definitely aimed at Pac. Again, Don't P, harm me, army, is Brooklyn in the house. He chose his words wisely. He knew exactly that Pac would understand what he's trying to do. And he did, cause he paid close attention to that. While everyone else was busy telling him that he's just overanalyzing things, that it's all a reach, that Biggie is innocent and could never do him wrong, Pac saw them as deceitful, two-faced, manipulative snakes. I mean, Puffy always managed to make himself and his people look like innocent angels, in contrast to the big bully, tyrant and devil Suge Knight. And Tupac, who's completely out of control. While Pac and Suge were always direct, Puff and Big loved responding subliminally, while pulling strings behind the scenes without anyone noticing. That's why Puff always said that bad boys move in silence.
Without a doubt, I'm the rapper with clout everybody yap about.
Who was the one quote-unquote yapping about Biggie every chance he got? Tupac, of course.
Check it out, guns I bust 'em. Problems with my wife, don't discuss 'em.
Biggie's infidelity, followed by Faith's alleged affair with Tupac, changed their relationship forever. And Biggie was getting tired of it, always getting brought up wherever he went. It was of course hurting him, and he just wanted to move on. So he's telling Pac and the media to stop talking about his wife and his relationship with her.
Fingerprints I dust them, recent address. Stuck it for your stash in your pissy mattress.
The part about the recent address could be about the incident with Mark Bell at the Christmas party in December 95, where Pac, Suge and the Mob Piru beat up the bad boy associate in an attempt to find out Puffy's recent address. Stuck you for your stash in your pissy mattress, another way of saying he robbed him, and possibly another reference to the Quad Studio shooting. Cause people saw it as Biggie admitting, or at least making it seem like he was partly involved in the robbery, just to piss off Tupac, who was already accusing him. Or it could also be something completely unrelated. Just him rapping about his life as a drug lord.
Your mom's the actress, didn't want to show me the safe. It's okay, she was old anyway.
I know that I was at the hospital with his mom when he had got shot in that studio.
Your mom's the actress, didn't want to show me the safe.
This could be about Tupac's mother, Afeni Shakur, who was a political activist and a member of the Black Panther Party. Biggie called her an actress, just like her son after the Quad Studio incident. Cause that's what Biggie and everyone else said about Pac in the Vibe magazine. That he was acting and being overdramatic. That everything was a movie to him. That he refused to hand over his jewelry. And Biggie is saying that Pac's mom is refusing to show him the safe. That she's as rebellious and stubborn as her son. Joking about her starting to be dramatic like in a movie, when Biggie tries to rob her. So Big had to kill her.
It's okay, she was old anyway, I display. Hot 97 round ready, cock Mac 11 line steady.
It's interesting that he mentioned Hot 97 after going on air to call the shots on Snoop and the Dogg Pound. Tons of lines that could have double meanings behind them. That's what Biggie was known for. Somehow all the keywords he used could be linked to an incident that's part of the beef. I don't think it was all a coincidence. This is the same song that interpolates lines from Shabba Ranks' song Don't Test Me, which the rap group OGC had interpolated before him, in the song The Storm, which they performed at the Palladium when Biggie and Junior Mafia were present.
and be as bad as the worst.
You can be as good as the best of them, but as bad as the worst.
After Big stole it from OGC and used it before their album came out, the entire bootcamp clique started to have an issue with him and pick the side of Tupac in the beef. The supergroup bootcamp clique included the subgroups OGC, Helter Skelter, Black Moon and Smith & Wesson. And they were now allies of Tupac and going to war against Biggie. And Big of course had a problem with that, cause they were in the middle of the East Coast West Coast beef, and the people who are supposed to be on his sides are teaming up with the enemy. He saw them as traitors. Puffy and Biggie were supposedly responsible for blackballing them. They all of a sudden had problems with the record label. Word then got back to Pac about Biggie becoming something like a gatekeeper for New York hip-hop, and he wanted to do something about it with Suge Knight's Death Row East, which was supposed to be Death Row's label branch on the East Coast. Cause he thought Biggie has full control over who becomes popular and who stays underground, just through his connections in the industry and his influence, blackballing people behind the scenes and pulling strings. He thought Biggie had that much power in New York, and Pac wanted to change that by creating a divide within New York itself, so that the king of New York, Biggie, loses his power and influence. So Pac later tried to reach out, be cool and pull rappers and rap groups from New York to his side, promising to sign them to Death Row East in exchange for their loyalty against Biggie and Bad Boy. People like the rap legend Big Daddy Kane, for example, who rejected the offer cause he didn't want to be part of the beef. But Pac had more luck with rappers and rap groups who are considered underground, people that were easy to blackball. And both sides kinda understood what they were trying to do. Biggie and Pac would try to get as many rappers on their side as possible. There were some who were Team Biggie and others who were Team Pac. But yeah, Biggie couldn't stand the bootcamp clique, and he wanted to sabotage their careers. And the bootcamp clique didn't like him either. A couple months later, on October 29th, they actually released a music video to the song No Fear, which featured actors who were supposed to look like Biggie and Faith. Rock from Helter Skelter actually threw Biggie off the stage. They did that not only to get back at Biggie for biting them, but also to show that they're still loyal to Pac, even after his death. But this would eventually lead to Sterang Wonder from OGC getting jumped by the members of Junior Mafia at the D&D studios. More on this in the King of New York documentary. On February 13th, Tupac's double album All Eyez On Me was finally released, and it did crazy numbers. It was his second #1 album in a row, and sold 566,000 copies in the first week, while Biggie's Ready to Die had only shipped 57,000 units. So Pac was back on top and became the #1 rapper in the game. He went 5 times platinum in just 2 months, something that no rapper on Bad Boy had accomplished yet. Ready to Die was stuck at double platinum. Pac was the biggest thing in '96. He was everywhere, was putting hits on the radio almost every month, dominating the charts, while also working on hundreds of songs for future albums. All while the East Coast was waiting for Biggie to come back, cause Pac was dropping albums back to back. It took Biggie way more time. He only had 1 album and a group album. Wasn't even halfway done with his sophomore album. This worked in Pac's favor, as he could dominate the charts, grow his fanbase, and take shots at Bad Boy while the whole world is convinced that Biggie is shook. Too scared to respond, taking so long with his album because he can't make bangers as fast as Pac. People were belittling Biggie and attacking him from all angles. He had dropped a group album just a couple months ago, but All Eyez On Me blew that away, and the fans expected Biggie to drop again to compete with him. 1995 was Biggie's year to shine, but '96 was Pac's year. He took Biggie's crown, with Pac outselling him in no time. He made the biggest rapper on the East Coast look like an ant, cause remember, it took Biggie a whole year to go double platinum, while Pac went 5 times platinum in just 2 months. So Pac didn't see Biggie as competition, at least sales-wise, and he rubbed it in his face in multiple interviews. On February 17th, Tupac flew to New York to perform at Saturday Night Live. He wanted to show everyone that he's not scared of coming to the East Coast, even after the 2 shootings in New York, while Biggie and Puffy are quote-unquote scared of coming to LA. which in Pac's opinion showed who was truly in power and in control of the rap beef, bragging about how he can come to the East Coast whenever he wants, while the people from Bad Boy can't come to the West.
I'm gonna be in LA. I got to pump mines. You do? I got to sling my album. I'm gonna be there. They feel like they could come into it like dissing Big and dissing Puff and doing their little thing. If that's what they choose to do, that's what they choose to do. But I know one thing I got to do is feed Tiana and take care of Miss Wallace. You know what I'm saying? And that's my only job. I mean, I'm making music for the people. If y'all love the music, y'all gonna buy the music. But please, all you MCs out there, all you fans out there, don't think Big gonna make a record dissing Tupac or the West Coast, because it's not going down like that. I can't even see me wasting my time or my talent. Right. You know what I'm saying? To disrespect another black man. He do his thing. I'm gonna continue to make my joints, man. I put a dent up in this joint, you know? I'm gonna make my album. That's how I'm gonna prove myself this year. I'm gonna make a whole tight album without saying nothing about the West or Tupac or Suge or Dre, or they do their thing and I'm gonna do my thing. You know what I'm saying? But if it's ever a confrontation between the two, you know what I'm saying, we're gonna handle that when we see each other, you know what I'm saying? But as far as musically, I'm cooler.
All right, I understand that your album is going to be dropping in July, right?
Yeah, hopefully in July. I mean, be ready for July, but I might want to do some more songs or something.
All right, because I was checking out the Bad Boy tape, and Puff Daddy was letting everybody know, eventually it's going to drop sometime in July.
Yeah, July 4th, we're going to drop it. So.
Pac then appeared on the March 96 issue of the Source magazine. He spoke on the beef with Big and explained how it all happened. I was putting Biggie on. What killed it was Biggie got put on. Biggie was in Thug Life. He used to be like, Thug Life, Thug Life. He used to be like, F Bad Boy. I hate Puffy. I ain't effing with him. Sign me, Pac. I just ain't have no chips for the guy and I wasn't gonna lie to him. He made his album and I was making my album. This is before Me Against the World came out. I used to hear his tracks. He used to hear my tracks. Our styles were totally different. My ish was on some I'm about to die, like you hear me on Me Against the World. But it was even a lot more ish about death. This guy album come out, Ready to Die, it's all my album. And Biggie used to sit up there and ask me, how do you do them choruses? You the hook man. How you do this, how you do that? I used to tell that guy, don't do none of that gangsta ish. You better get at these females. Because the females buy your tape. The guys buy your tape because the females want the tape. And look, he came out on some Big Papa-ish. That's straight up robbery. But even after that, long as he was my homeboy, that was okay. But soon as he started acting like he was his own man, they knew that I was at the point where I couldn't just ride on people. I had like 50 gun cases, 30 assault cases, and they didn't have none. So they was plotting. To the question how his beef with Biggie turned into an East Coast West Coast thing, he said, I'm from the East Coast. That's why I can feel like this. To my peoples in New York who got love for me, ignore this, don't even trip. But they attacking me in such mass amounts that I can't no longer call these people's names out. And they all coming from New York. That's where I gotta start banging. But even after all this happened, Dre, Snoop and the Pound made peace with Puffy on stage at the Source Awards. Biggie got on the radio saying, this is where them guys is at. They making a video dissing New York. Y'all need to get at them. People rolled down there and got with them. Funkmaster Flex, all them guys who was riding on the radio, and some people went down there and handled their wax. But nobody got hurt, fortunately. But see, all they did was step this ish up a level. How did Biggie's wife Faith get into all this? Because them people be on the radio and in their records and on the videos acting like players. Didn't Biggie say he was a player? Baby baby, stole my lyrics, I stole his B. Took my rhymes, I took his wife. He touched my style, I touched his wife. If he talk all that ish about being a player, and I got at his wife 2 days after I got out of jail, imagine that gangsta ish he's talking. How plastic that ish is. So as you can see, after hearing the Get Money remix, Pac became more and more relentless in his interviews. Cause he wasn't really using profanity when talking about Biggie's wife. At least not in his interviews. He's way more aggressive now. On March 7th, Pac continued going at Biggie and other rappers on the East Coast. He recorded the diss track When We Ride on Our Enemies, which was aimed at the groups Fugees, Mobb Deep and also Biggie. In the second verse, he said, Tupac felt betrayed and double-crossed by Biggie, who he believed knew who shot him. When he said crossing the game, he meant not playing by the rules of the game. And that's exactly what he thought of the bad boy entourage when they allegedly set up the robbery and shooting. In Pac's view, it's only right for him to retaliate in the same manner, by dominating and eradicating the competition in the rap game. On the song Who Shot Ya, Big rapped about putting his gun into the mouth of one of his victims who chose to mess with him. He killed him while the victim begged for mercy. Pac wants to give him the exact same treatment.
Come here. Open your mouth. Did I tell you don't fuck with me? Huh? Did I tell you not to fuck with me? Now try your eyes. You was heartless on your hits. It's love to scream peace after they start some shit.
Biggie was indeed heartless on his hits, like on Gimme the Loot for example, where he's talking about robbing and shooting a pregnant lady. That whole mafioso ice-cold killer image. Songs like Who Shot Ya, where he's making people beg for mercy who have a gun in their mouth. Pac is now asking how he can scream peace after doing songs like that. How they can squash the beef after all the things he did.
Pay attention, here's a word to those that rob me. I murder you, then I run a train on Mobb Deep. Don't fuck with me.
Sending a threat to those that robbed him. Dexter Isaac, his two homies Spunk and JD, King Tut, who he believed was one of the shooters, Haitian Jack, Jimmy Henchman, and everyone who knew what happened but refused to help Pac.
I mean, the kids wanna be involved. See, I was only talking to Biggie, but I'll kill all of y'all, then ball.
That same day, he recorded the song You Don't Have to Worry with the Outlaws.
Repetitive blows are thrown to my foes, no love shown, get disposed of, blasted full blown.
This is the song where Tupac supposedly admitted to have given orders of killing someone after getting shot 5 times. And that someone, as explained earlier, was widely speculated to be Pac's old friend Big Stretch, who died exactly a year after the Quad Studio shooting.
5 shots changed my whole life, clothes were slick, niggas died by my orders when I wrote this shit.
The next lines kinda confirm that he's talking about an old friend who was there from day one. Cause Pac and Stretch met in 1990, when he hadn't even started his solo career. He was still a member of the group Digital Underground.
Though we go back like wild nights to Latin quarters, niggas tried to kill me, and I fed their wife and their daughters.
I fed their wife and their daughters. Pac is talking about Faith Evans and both Big's and Stretch's daughters, who he always bought presents and took care of like an uncle. He really saw Biggie and Stretch as his brothers. Pac even gave Stretch money so that he can take care of his kids, even babysitted her. Big was gonna quit rapping and go back to dealing drugs around the time his girlfriend got pregnant. Pac stopped him and put some money in his pockets. Took him on shows so that he can make some cash until his deal with Puffy works out. Paid their bills, bought them food, toys and presents for the kids. But he also said that he fed their wives. Talking about Faith Evans. You know exactly what Pac fed Faith Evans that night when they slept together.
Say they shot me in my nuts, out of luck with it. Bullshit, nigga, cause I'm still up yo dip.
Once again, Pac bragging about sleeping with Biggie's wife, Faith Evans. He did it even after getting shot in the groin area. His enemies were making fun of him for shooting himself in the balls, spreading rumors of him losing a testicle, which he actually didn't. His wound sealed, and according to Idi Amin from the Outlaws, Pac still had both testicles while he was recovering. But people at the time were making fun of Pac for only having one testicle left. He addressed it again in the next song called Ghetto Star, which he recorded a day later on March 8th.
Bust my gun, make them all scatter. Bullets to my nuts only made my balls fatter. Eat it, I eat it.
His haters on the East Coast started to call him One Pac, and there were rumors that that's the angle Biggie wanted to use to come back at him lyrically. Like, look, how can you say you slept with my wife when you only have one testicle? And Pac was already writing lines in response to that. As a counter, this was around the time they started promoting his upcoming album Life After Death, on which he wanted to lyrically respond to him. So New Yorkers were waiting for him to make a comeback. And Pac is telling him to bring it on, saying that he'll get killed when he rides by.
They shouldn't try me, send their bodies to their parents up north. With their faces, they wrists and they nuts cut off.
On March 22nd, Dr. Dre officially left Death Row Records to found his new label Aftermath Entertainment. He would later collaborate with various New York MCs and even make peace with Biggie, which of course upset Tupac a lot. That same month, Snoop met Biggie as well in Atlanta at a hotel. He went there with Daz Dillinger and was greeted by Lil Cease, who then brought them to Biggie's hotel room after Snoop told him that he wants to holler at him. Big opened the door and gave them a hug. They smoked some weed together and Snoop confronted him about the shooting in Red Hook, Brooklyn. Big couldn't say anything to justify his actions. Snoop told him, "I know you called that shot on me. They missed. I forgive you." Snoop felt like no one got hit, so he let it go. The Crips didn't really have real motivation to get involved now, cause Snoop forgave him and that was that. When he went back to LA and told Pac about it, Pac was confused on how he could forgive them like that. Cause remember, Pac thought Big and Puff knew who shot him, and didn't tell him on purpose. They blamed Big Jake's death on Puffy as well, and they almost got Snoop and the Dogg Pound killed. Pac was all about that loyalty. He was there when his Piru friends needed help, and also for all the Crips on his team. First thing Pac told Snoop was, "F them people." Snoop felt like Pac had the right to say that. How the F you ain't trippin' when people try to kill you? You ain't trippin' when people try to shoot you? And they tried to do me. Homie, you went soft after that murder case. Referring to the murder case Snoop beat on February 21st, 1996. On March 25th, Pac recorded the song "Effing with the Wrong Guy", and you could tell that he's slowly getting into the hit 'em up mode again. He's being sarcastic here, saying that Biggie sending Faith like a peace offering won't change the fact that he will continue to go at him, mocking him by saying that it's business, never personal. He did the song with Faith, but instead of paying her, he slept with her as compensation, sending her back to New York, telling Biggie to not take it personally.
If you was half the man it was, bring you really when you come for me, cause we sick thugs.
Saying that Faith at least had the metaphorical balls to come step into his territory and visit him, implying that Faith is much more of a man than Biggie, even though Big tried to make everyone believe that he's an ice-cold killer and mafia boss. Pac is telling him that he shall bring out the big guns when he and his crew come to get him.
I wanna be a peaceful man, but still when taking them for me, all I can see is getting them.
Pac still wanted revenge and confront Biggie in person. Snoop and the Dogg Pound flew to New York in peace and got shot at because of Biggie. So Pac and Suge wanted to return the favor and make it impossible for the people from Bad Boy to come to LA without getting in trouble.
They keep it popping, lot of busters wanna see me fall. I put your itch and now this new issue, go make it more.
The next time Pac and Suge saw the people from Bad Boy was at the Soul Train Awards in LA on March 29th, 1996. This was Suge's territory. He had bought 60 tickets for Mob Piru members to come to the show. Keefe D and the Southsiders were there too, but they weren't sitting with any of the Bad Boy members. None of the gang members were allowed to come on stage or accompany the artists on their way in or out that building. Keefe D didn't even see Puffy that day. It was said that Biggie was in charge of opening up the show on stage. Pac and Suge obviously got mad at that and wanted to open up the show themselves. I mean, the show took place in LA, and they let a New York artist open up in the middle of the East Coast-West Coast war. Suge and Pac's egos were so big that they couldn't allow it. Suge wanted his 50 to 60 men to rush that stage and carry Biggie outside. But they were late for the show and didn't actually see Biggie and his people on stage. They were on their way to the awards when Biggie was done performing, and after he got the award for R&B Soul or Rap Song of the Year for his song One More Chance. Biggie and his team were now leaving the awards with a small group of people through the back door. They had a flight to catch to North Carolina where they had a show, so they were in a rush. The people from Death Row, however, thought that they're trying to escape like cowards, leaving through the back door all scared, trying to avoid confrontation. Pac, Suge, the Outlaws, the Death Row head of security Reggie Wright, bodyguard Frank Alexander, and a large group of Mob Piru members arrived at the back door where Biggie and his people were just coming out. Reggie Wright had tipped off the man who ran the security at the awards. He held back the bad boy camp and made sure that they don't leave before the people from Death Row arrived. So it was all a setup. The people from Death Row were late, so the plan of them attacking Biggie on stage didn't work out. So they resorted to plan B, to surprise them when they're trying to leave. Tupac was dressed in army fatigues, just like the people who robbed and shot him at the Quad Studios. Again, he was fully convinced that those people were Biggie's homies from Brooklyn, that they were the ones that set him up. So Pac wanted to return the favor and set them up in a similar way, now that they're in his territory.
If they come to California, some of these true-to-life gangbangers gonna pull your motherfucking card. You could do that little set me up in the studio in New York, but in California, nigga, that's where the G's ride.
He wanted to approach him dressed in army fatigues just like the robbers did to Tupac at the Quad Studios. But both sides had guns with them, and this was a place where the police would arrive in no time, so they wouldn't have been able to do something stupid even if they wanted to. There were eyewitnesses everywhere. Pac jumped out the Hummer and saw Biggie the moment he came out of that building. He immediately started yelling and insulting him. "You fat mother effer, traitor, you on the west side now. Let's get this ish over with right here, right now." That was the first time I really looked into his face, Biggie said in the September 96 issue of the Vibe magazine. I looked into his eyes and I was like, yo, this guy is really bugging the F out. Biggie had Little C's, Lance Rivera, C. Gutter, and one security guard with him. They were clearly outnumbered. The two groups came face to face and started arguing. C. Gutter from Biggie's camp then pulled out a gun. Reggie Wright from Pac's camp then warned him, saying that he better lower the gun and not point it at them, or else it's over. Pac was yelling, "Give me the gun, give me the gun! Shoot that mother effer, shoot him!" And Reggie was trying to calm him down, while Pac was pulling him by his arm. Puffy wasn't actually with Biggie at the time, but they were heading in their direction after Biggie's security guard called them for backup, meaning one armed security guard and Puffy as their reinforcements against Suge's people. They were clearly outnumbered and had nobody there to save them if it really came down to a shooting. But they were now rushing there, not knowing what Pac and his people wanted to do to Biggie. But Big was standing there all cool and relaxed. He didn't look scared at all. Little C's on the other hand was quote-unquote pissy drunk and started responding to the things Tupac was saying. "F you, man. East Coast, mother effer." To which Pac responded, "We on the west side now, we gon' handle this ish." The following week's Hollywood Reporter quoted an unnamed source saying that Pac waved a pistol at Biggie, but Big denied it in the Vibe magazine. Nah, Pac didn't pull steel on me. He was on some tough ish though. I can't knock them dudes for the way they go about their biz. They made everything seem so dramatic. I felt the darkness when he rolled up that night. Duke came out the window, fatigued out, screaming, "West Side, outlaws." I was like, that's Bishop, talking about Tupac's character in the movie Juice. Whatever he's doing right now, that's the role he's playing. He played that ish to a T. He had his little goons with him, and Suge was with him, and they was like, "We're gonna settle this now." Then his people start formulating and my people start formulating. Someone pulled a gun. Mother effer starts screaming, "He got a gun! He got a gun!" Like, we in LA. What the F are we supposed to do? Shootout? That's when I knew it was on. Keefe D said if he was with Biggie that day, he would have shot and killed Suge, Pac, Reggie, and the rest of the Death Row entourage. But C. Gutter and Reggie didn't fire any bullets that day. Lil C's and Lance Rivera tried to run away, while Big, his security, and C. Gutter stood there unbothered and fearless, according to Reggie Wright himself. The Fruit of Islam came and jumped in between the two groups, calming down the situation. Suge was talking to one of them, and after that, both groups went their separate ways. But the Death Row entourage was now coming to Puffy's direction, cause they wanted to get inside the building. Puffy panicked and jumped down the embankment, leaving the bodyguard Gene Deal behind, while the entire Death Row entourage came in his direction. Puffy ran alongside the trucks, and according to Reggie Wright, he hid under a car. He was scared to death, and the entire Death Row family was laughing at him. They definitely had the advantage that day. Tupac and Suge went inside the auditorium and walked around as if they owned the building, signing autographs while he was actually supposed to be on stage to accept the award for Album of the Year. Cause Pac had won in that category with Me Against the World, the only award he won while he was alive. Pac didn't even care to go on stage, he was just filled with adrenaline, walking around the building as if he's looking for a fight. Biggie, on the other hand, had won 4 Source Awards, 2 Billboard Awards and 1 Soul Train Award while he was alive, all through one album, while Pac had 4 solo projects out. He was mad about that as well, but he played it off as if he doesn't care about awards, saying that record sales is the only thing that matters, and Pac outsold all of them. So the Death Row entourage is now in the building while Bad Boy is outside trying to escape. They didn't want to spend too much time in LA, cause they never felt safe. Puffy then tried to call Biggie, who was now on his way to North Carolina. He didn't go on the phone because he was mad at him for leaving him behind. Puffy didn't actually fly to North Carolina. He drove back to the house he was staying at in LA, the one Pac and Suge wanted to find when they beat up Mark Bell. When they got there, Gene Deal called Chaz Slim Williams, owner of Black Hand Entertainment, and he told him what happened. He mentioned the fact that Puffy ran for his life, and Puffy overheard their conversation while he was going upstairs. He started yelling at him and said, "Why you telling him I ran? Why you ain't tell him I took a left?" Chaz and Gene Deal were shocked. Puff was heated. Came back downstairs to speak to Gene. "Yo Gene, I got 126 employees, and these people depend on me for their livelihoods. If these white folks thought or would think that I had anything to do with any kind of gunplay, they wouldn't F with me. And they not gonna F with me. I'm a businessman. I'm about making money. But something gotta change. I don't give a F if Pac gotta die, Big gotta die, or Suge Knight go to jail. Something has got to change." And then he went back upstairs. Gene Deal and his friend, who was in the same room, couldn't believe what they just heard. The other man in the room said, "Yo, that guy said Big." And Gene responded, "He sure did. Big gotta die? Yo, he said Big." On March 31st, Pac recorded the song Good Life with Big Psych.
Please forgive me for my wicked way.
On April 4th, Pac and Snoop recorded the song Street Life, with Pac dissing Biggie in his verse, even though Snoop supposedly made peace with Big in person. Pac even said he and Snoop are bad boy killers, and Snoop was fine with it. Pac would say bad boy killer on numerous records. It became one of his most commonly used phrases. He said it again on the song Troublesome 96, recorded on April 8th. On April 19th, Pac raised the airwaves of KMEL Radio's West Side Radio program in San Francisco. He spoke to Sway about his beef with Biggie and also the East Coast-West Coast war.
We gotta have this beef and this war and these words and this dialogue until we can renegotiate the terms of the treaty. I love the East Coast. I'm from the East Coast. But they have to understand that you can't just be saying this about us and think that we're not gonna take it personal. You can't just be calling us fakers and pretenders and non-creative motherfuckers and we can't freestyle and this and that and this and think we just gonna be like, oh, that's cool, we love them because they started it. Hell nah, we're gonna take it personal.
He also made it clear that it's not really a coastal war, but more of a label beef. Death Row Records versus Bad Boy Entertainment, while explaining how Biggie was able to take over the game at a time when the East Coast was really in need for a strong leader to keep the West Coast under control, cause they were taking over commercially, outselling rappers on the East Coast, even though New York is the mecca of hip-hop.
Biggie came at a time when they were open to somebody saying, we're the master race and these guys are nothing and the pretenders and this is why we not making it in the business because of these guys. This is why we not doing nothing because of these guys. So the East Coast really not hating us, really not knowing nothing about us, but just listening to their supposed to be leader. You know, listening to the person that was representing for them. Like, yeah, okay, well, Biggie, he from Brooklyn, you know what I mean? And that's what happened. So now I'm doing what the East Coast would have did if the West Coast did this to the East Coast. I'm riding. from my side. You know what I mean? You wrong. This is not right. Recognize us. And the only way the East Coast gonna recognize us is for us to do it on records, my money, my sales, and by representing it, just like KRS-One. I'm mad at Biggie, I'm rushing it. What's the problem?
He also made it clear that the so-called coastal war will end once the East Coast distances itself from Biggie, the King of New York, meaning that they stop treating him like their representative, leader, and king. Cause that's what Pac truly wanted. Take down Biggie and Bad Boy, so that they're no longer seen as the representatives of the East Coast.
That's real. If the East Coast separate themselves from Biggie, we'll do shows in the East. Everything is beautiful. But so far, the East Coast has been with every interviews I read, every letter I read. It's just like, oh, Tupac, Biggie this, Biggie, like he's representative of the East Coast. So that's why I attack as though I do, because I'm a general and I'm a smart general. And I'm not going to attack at no blind soldiers. I'm going to attack at those attacking me. Only reason people was mad now is because I came out of jail and made this shit a reality. When I got out of jail, the West Coast, East Coast issue was really started. California love, what I was saying, put it down. And now the niggas is mad because money is up. Attitudes have changed. It's not as safe as it used to be. You gotta think about their business steps, and that's what I wanted to happen. Now let's go to the table. Let's talk. Let's make peace. Let's work it out. Let's get a community the money.
Pac did not want to sit down with Biggie and Puffy to talk it out. He wanted to overthrow them and make peace with the rest of the East Coast, using the new label Death Row East, which was supposed to replace Bad Boy as the face of the East Coast, to show that they have no desire to fight the East Coast, that they're willing to cooperate with the East, promoting their artists and giving them a chance to shine. They were trying to get several New York rappers and rap groups on their side against Biggie and Bad Boy, but most of them at the time wanted to stay neutral, cause they didn't really want to bet on the wrong horse. Cause everybody knew that one of these labels was about to go down. The people from Death Row were not going to stop until Bad Boy is eliminated. But this could have went both ways. Cause Dre, the mastermind behind Death Row, had just left the label. And Pac was completely out of control. And the people on the East Coast of course didn't want to strengthen the quote-unquote enemy by picking the side of the people who are trying to destroy the face of their coast, meaning Bad Boy. They didn't want to betray the East Coast. So it was hard for Suge and Pac to make Death Row East work, cause nobody knew what was about to happen next.
So you saying with a conversation with guys like Puffy, Biggie, and that whole East Coast?
Sit down and conversate with Puffy or Biggie, because that's like Scarface sitting down with the dude he overthrew. You know what I mean? They not on my level, but I can sit down with the OGs from there, which we are doing. People don't even know we not beefing with the East Coast. We starting Death Row East with Eric B, all the OG niggas out there from the East Coast. We got Kane, Christopher Williams, all these artists. We trying to get Bobby Brown, all these artists. We trying to put the East Coast Death Row just like the West Coast Death Row and make it major. You know what I mean?
Big.
Right, but we're not doing that until we get this business settled. And even while we doing that, we're trying to get the Wu-Tangs again, because I love them. I feel as though they represent the East Coast how we represent the West Coast. And I love them.
Pac also thought that the Bad Boy camp is mad because he found out about what happened at the Quad Studios. He knew who set him up, who was cool with them before and after the shooting, and now they're getting exposed. So Pac thought the Bad Boy camp had a problem with that.
They mad because I know what happened. That's why they all, you know, it's Biggie and them, they're not riding. That's why what I'm doing, I know what I'm doing. I'm destroying him. I fucked his wife. I'm fucking him in the game. I'm destroying him. He lives by the rules of the game. He lives off a mafia image. I'm bringing him showing how he totally disregarded the rules of the game, and he's everything but a mafia.
You reinvented it.
Right. I'm showing him. You know what I mean? If anybody's a mafia, look at me. I fucked your kids. I took 5 shots. I went your crew. I mean, I just what? I went to New York. They don't do shows out here. I did Saturday Night Live. Y'all forgot. Live in New York, where everybody knew I was going to be there on stage, no problems. Went to the clubs, everything. In the middle with my West Side ride. You know what I mean? Because I'm real about it. I don't hate New York, but if y'all don't understand it, you can get rolled over too. Because I hear y'all. I was in jail and I heard what they were saying on the radio. And I swear to God, dog, they used to diss the West Coast.
He also talked about Biggie's player image, how it's all fake and made up to sell records. How Pac is the real player, and that a quote-unquote faker like Biggie could never battle him as he'd only expose himself. Cause Pac felt like Biggie was rapping about his life the whole time.
I feel like I'm doing it for hip-hop. All I'm trying to do is get the imposters out. I remember Biggie sleeping on my couch. I remember begging tips to oh! You feel me?
Yeah.
So Big Papa don't
don't mean nothing to me. He know it. He know it. That's why he can't fight me. That's why he can't battle me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can make songs talking exactly about him, and he can't talk about me because he know. I'm the one that used to buy him champagne. All that shit he talking, that was me buying him that. He talking about my lifestyle with his albums. Because when he was doing his album, he was broke. I was having money. The shit he talking about was my life. Thug life. That's what he talking about. All that Junior Mafia, them niggas was young motherfuckers that used to hang around that I used to give money to get on the train to go home at night. Little Caesar and all of that.
And Kim and all that.
Yeah, so now he rapping against me, and you can imagine how I feel.
He also talked about the gun charges in '93, which he received after the incident at the Parker Meridian Hotel where Ayanna Jackson got assaulted. Biggie was there too that day and left his guns there, for which Tupac got into trouble, on top of what Ayanna Jackson accused him of.
When I got arrested in New York, I got arrested for Biggie. Them guns in my room was Biggie's guns because them cowards left the room when they heard the police was downstairs, and everybody left their guns in my room. So I got 4 guns in my room. Serial numbers scratched out, and I did not snitch. I took that case. So you can imagine how I feel when I'm in jail for that case, and he out there living a mafia lifestyle, giving me no money, giving me no respect, giving me no tribute, rolling with my road dog who was there when I got shot. I mean, come on, man. I'm not paranoid. I'm not paranoid.
That same day, after doing the interview with Sway, he drove directly to the studio to re-record the Bad Boy diss record Hit 'Em Up, with entirely new verses from him and the Outlaws, but this time they tried to be even more disrespectful than before. And he didn't just go at Biggie. He also went against Diddy, Lil Kim, Lil C's, Junior Mafia, the whole Bad Boy label, Mobb Deep, Gino XL, Jay-Z, and everyone else who had a problem with him. The producer Johnny J made the same beat from scratch, but this time it sounded more polished. They also took inspiration from the Get Money remix, where the background singer repeatedly said, "Get money," and on Hit 'Em Up they turned it into "Take money," basically saying that Biggie might be getting money, but Pac is taking it away from him. The song starts off in the most disrespectful way possible, probably the most iconic opening line in history.
That's why I fucked your bitch, you fat motherfucker. West side, bad boy killers.
Pac destroyed whatever was left of Biggie's marriage with this song alone. By this point, everyone had seen the pictures of Pac and Faith together. Now this song would play at every club, at every event, in every hood, and every day on the radio. Starting off with the most disrespectful opening lines in hip-hop history, on one of the hardest tracks of '96. A timeless classic with infinite replay value.
First off your itch in the click you claim. West side when we ride, come equipped with game.
Starting off his first verse with a huge FU to Biggie's wife and Junior Mafia. On the first version of Hit 'Em Up, Pac didn't really insult Biggie's wife, only said that he slept with her. But now that Faith told Big about the sample they used for Hit 'Em Up, and them using it for the Get Money remix in the attempt to sabotage Pac, he had no reason to spare Faith during his lyrical onslaught, saying that he not only effed her, but he's also saying F her, used her and threw her away. The disrespect. He's also saying that as a representative of the West, people can be sure that he will pull up strapped and with game, meaning intensity, every time he goes for a ride to hunt his enemies.
You claim to be a player, but I fucked your wife. We bust on bad boys, niggas fuck for life.
How can you claim to be a player, make the song Player's Anthem, but then wife up a promiscuous woman, who according to her own confessions in her book, had numerous affairs behind Biggie's back, opening her legs for random men, possibly even for Biggie's enemy Tupac? How can you call yourself a player after that? Players usually don't even have a wife. They never commit and change partners like their underwear. So Pac was pointing out that contradiction. He's also threatening to shoot and kill the people from Bad Boy.
Plus, Puffy tryna see me weak, hearts I rip. Biggie Smalls and Junior Mafia, some Martinez.
After reading Pac's comments in the Vibe magazine and hearing his constant jabs at him and his label, Puffy told Pac to come see him if he's as tough as he claims, so that they can talk it out face to face. He was calling him a fake thug and actor. But then, when they actually met at the '96 Soul Train Awards, Puff ran for his life and hid under a car. And everyone was laughing at him. So Pac is saying that he'd rip his weak heart out. He doesn't associate with weak-hearted people. But this is also a double entendre, with Pac saying that Puffy wants to see him weak, like when he went to prison with the whole media destroying his image and reputation, and then putting out Who Shot Ya to kick Pac while he was already on the ground, unable to respond. But now that he's out, he's showing the world that Puffy, Biggie and Bad Boy are easy targets for him. Quote-unquote mark-ass B-words.
We keep on coming while we running for your juice. Steady gunning, keep on busting at the boots. You know the rules.
Similar to how Pac was robbed for his jewelry in the presence of Biggie and Puffy, Pac and his homies will come for their jewelry as well and rob them at gunpoint. Take their jewelry and take their money, like you hear the singers say in the background. When Puffy heard this, he actually put out a $75,000 bounty on death row chains. Anybody who manages to snatch one of their chains and bring it back to Puffy would receive that amount of money. Cause Puffy's plan was to record a Bad Boy music video for Biggie with them showing off the stolen death row medallion to belittle them. Showing them that they're the ones in power, the ones that get the last laugh. On Hit 'Em Up, you were saying that you would rob us and take our jewelry, but as you can see, you're the ones who actually got robbed. You're the victims and you can't do anything about it. That's what Puffy wanted to do to ridicule and emasculate them. Now this is a clever play on Little Caesar's name, turning Caes into deceased, cutting him up into pieces, which is also a reference to Julius Caesar of the Roman Empire, who got brutally stabbed to death by those he believed to be his closest friends, who believed that Caesar was full of wrongdoings for his people. Pac used to be Little Caesar's friend, but he did him wrong, and now he's cutting him into pieces. Cause again, Pac believed that Caes was the lookout man during the Quad Studio incident. The guy that lured him into a trap by telling him to get around the corner, to the place where he got robbed. Little Kim is another member of Biggie's Junior Mafia. She was the one Biggie cheated on Faith with. Reason why they're getting dissed is because they were the closest to Biggie, and also appeared on the Get Money remix, for which again they stole the beat of Hit 'Em Up. Pac is telling her to not mess with real G's like him, or else he will snatch her ugly ass off the streets. This is actually a double entendre. The first way to interpret this is pretty straightforward. He wants to kidnap her. The second way is that he wants to take her off the streets, like a pimp. Pimps do that to underperforming prostitutes who are not attractive enough to attract men and to make money. So the pimp, which in this case is Pac, is taking her out of rotation, basically calling her an ugly, underperforming prostitute. Her main selling point aside from her rapping skills was definitely her looks, which Biggie wanted to utilize to outsell the competition on the West Coast. Pac is saying that he'll continue the beef until one of them dies, which is unfortunately what happened, since both of them lost their lives in the middle of the East Coast-West Coast war. The beef was very personal. The two had a lot of history together, turned from close friends to deadly enemies. Pac was willing to keep the beef going until he leaves planet Earth, which is exactly what he did. He's killing everyone that's associated to the label Bad Boy. They'll get their caps peeled, meaning they'll get shot in the head. In the hook, he's telling them to grab their guns and to call the police when they see him, since he's about to strike back after they failed to finish him off during the Quad Studio shooting. As you can hear, Pac tried to mimic the hook on Junior Mafia's Players Anthem. Then he references Biggie's song Who Shot Ya, telling them that they didn't finish, and that now they have to deal with the consequences.
Who shot y'all? Separate the weak from the opposite. Who shot me, but your pumps didn't finish. Now you're about to feel the wrath of a menace. I hit 'em up.
In the interlude, Pac tells his enemies that none of them are on his level, and that he'll just let his soldiers take care of them. A couple years ago, Biggie was one of Pac's soldiers, and he still sees him as someone who doesn't have the same rank as him. He sees himself as a general and Biggie as a soldier who's on the same level as his outlaws, which is of course ridiculous knowing that Biggie is one of the greatest to ever do it. And he had proven himself to be a force to be reckoned with. With all the awards and plaques he got, crowned as the King of New York by the Hip Hop Bible. He was definitely the closest to Tupac in terms of hierarchy and rank. They were both fighting for the #1 spot. But Pac wanted to remind him that he once stood exactly where his outlaws are standing right now, right by his side, working under him. So Big shall come down from his high horse.
Get out the way, yo, get out the way, yo. Biggie Smalls just got dropped.
Hussein Fatal had the second verse, and he starts off by saying that Biggie just got dropped, describing a crime scene in which Big was just shot and people are pushing through the crowd to see his dead body. He asked Lil Moo, aka Napoleon from the Outlaws, to pass him the Mac, so that he can shoot Biggie in his back even though Pac already dropped him.
Frank Wright need to get spanked right for setting traps. Little accident murderers, and I ain't never heard of ya.
This is them publicly saying that Biggie set up Tupac, talking about the Quad Studio incident. People were always coming in Pac's defense saying that he never actually claimed that Biggie set him up, but they're accusing him right here, on one of Pac's biggest records. Pac always made conflicting statements about Biggie's alleged involvement. He would usually only say that Big knew who shot him, but wouldn't tell him, and that he assumes that he had something to do with it, having no clear evidence. But now Hussein Fatal is literally saying that it was him who set him up, which later turned out to be complete nonsense. Pac then comes in with verse number 3, saying that this ain't no freestyle battle but murder, since he's killing all his enemies with their mouths open. People always debated on who's the better freestyler, Pac or Biggie. Pac is saying that it's a pointless debate, since his freestyles won't help him to survive this track, as it's his metaphorical nail in the coffin.
Talking about you getting money, but it's funny to me. All you niggas living for me while you with me.
He also references the song Get Money, how Biggie bragged about his newfound wealth after blowing up, while using the beat for Hit 'Em Up to infuriate Tupac. He was basically showing Pac that he's one step ahead of him, and that they'll continue making money no matter what. And Pac responds by promising him that he'll turn his life miserable if he ever tries to mess with him, pulling those stunts like on Get Money.
Biggie, remember when I used to let you sleep on the couch and beg a bitch to let you sleep in the house?
Then he tries to remind him of the past, before Biggie reached superstardom. Back when he was sleeping on Tupac's couch every time he came to LA. Cause Biggie used to make songs like Juicy where he rapped about his struggles growing up. But he somehow can't remember how Pac used to let him rap at his shows and crash at his house, when he was too broke to buy train tickets.
Born sinner, the opposite of a winner. Remember when I used to eat sardines for dinner? Biggie, remember when I used to let you sleep on the couch and beg a bitch to let you sleep in the house?
I remember Biggie sleeping on my couch. I remember begging tips to oh, you feel me?
Yeah.
So Big Papa don't mean nothing to me. He know it. He know it. That's why he can't fight me. That's why he can't battle me.
He also addressed the whole thing about him begging women to sleep with Biggie, because back then Biggie had no game. Tupac was a ladies' man, and Biggie always wanted to be like him. Then he jumps to the present and mocks Biggie for trying to bite his whole swagger and player image.
Now it's all about Versace. You copy my style. 5 shots couldn't drop me. I took it and smiled.
Tupac was one of the first rappers to dress in and talk about luxury brands, clothing usually associated with rich white males, thus kickstarting an even more materialistic trend in mid-90s hip-hop. Pac is trying to say that he had the Versace style before Biggie. Gianni Versace gave Tupac free clothes because he thought he was beautiful, and he also admired his art, so that's why he wanted Pac to wear his clothes. This was also a response to Biggie claiming that he was the one who started mentioning Versace in song lyrics.
He glamorized Versace. I didn't call Versace. Versace called me to come to his show and gave me a gang of free clothes. And please wear my shit. Please do some shit for me. Can you wear my shit? You are the image of Versace. I swear to God, you are. That body, that's Versace. I swear to God, Armani, you are so handsome. You are, believe in me. You know what I mean? From him, Dolce & Gabbana, man, I ain't rapping at they show. Valentino giving me suits, gangster suits. Everything he glamorized, I personified. Everything you want to have, I got.
Next we have a verse from Gaddafi, who starts off by giving a shout out to New Jersey, the city he was born in. Then he takes aim at the Junior Mafia members Lil C's and Lil Kim. He hopes to bring the fake East Coast gangsters to their knees for a plea bargain in Rio de Janeiro. Reason why he even mentioned the city in Brazil is because Lil C's was also known by his alias Cisalio de Janeiro. The next lines were aimed at Lil Kim and the Junior Mafia family. Him calling the Junior Mafia clique Junior Whopper made Lil C's and the people from Bad Boy laugh the hardest. They loved that line, since he's not only making fun of Biggie's weight, calling his clique a cheap fat burger that was worth 99 cents at the time, but he was also saying that they ain't valuable and can't get money. They are not even a Whopper, just a cheaper, smaller version of it. Biggie and Craig Mack together were marketed as the Big Mac, back when the label Bad Boy first made a name for itself. Cause in '94 the label put out a sampler called Big Mac, with 6 Craig Mack songs on the A-side and 7 Biggie songs on the B-side, as they were the first major artists on Bad Boy with their albums Ready to Die and Project Funk the World, dropping back to back in September '94. And now Gaddafi is calling Biggie's crew the Junior Whopper clique. Then we have Idi Amin, who repurposed the hook from MC Lyte's diss track 10% Diss to accuse Biggie of biting Tupac's beat and style. He called him a beat biter because not only did Biggie steal the beat of Tupac's Time to Get My Drank On for his hit single Big Papa, but he also stole the beat of the first version of Hit 'Em Up for his Get Money remix. Not only that, but Pac and his camp were also convinced that Biggie stole his style, especially the player image and him constantly rapping about death. And then we get to the legendary outro where Tupac lashes out on everybody. This is a 1.5-minute rant about Puffy, Biggie, Lil C's, Lil Kim, Jay-Z, Junior Mafia, Chino XL, Mobb Deep, and everyone from New York trying to take shots at them.
Now you tell me who won. I see them, they run.
Pac thinks that this track won him the East Coast-West Coast war, as it's a lot harder than Who Shot Ya, which he thought was a diss track towards him, and also all the other diss tracks from rappers from the East Coast.
They don't want to see us. Whole Junior Mafia clique dressing up trying to be us.
He also makes fun of the fact that Puffy ran off in parkour fashion when they came face to face at the '96 Soul Train Awards. Puffy was running for his life and hiding under a car, and he was the one telling Pac to come say those things he's saying in the media to his face. So Pac pulled up and Puffy ran for his life, and that's why he said, "I see them, they run."
Any niggas from New York that want to bring it, but we ain't singing, we bringing drama. You and your motherfucking mama.
He also called out every rapper from New York, showing that he's not scared of any further beefs with rappers from the East Coast. He's basically saying F you to everyone from New York who has a problem with him, and also F you to all their mothers, saying that they'll kill them all.
Now when I came out, I told you it was just about Biggie. Then everybody had to open their mouth with a motherfucking opinion.
At first, Tupac was only talking about Biggie, but he felt like people started taking sides and wanted to get involved, jumping in the ring while the media labels it an East Coast-West Coast conflict, even though for Tupac it was only about him and Biggie. So Pac felt like in order for him to win the war, he has to fight everyone who's still trying to get in the ring with him. He makes clear that everyone can get it, all at the same time. He's not shying away from battling any MC from the opposite coast.
Biggie, Bad Boy as a staff, record label, and as a motherfucking crew.
The next lines were the reason why Puffy finally decided to put out a hit on him and Suge. Puffy was worried about his business and safety, because Pac was the biggest rapper on the planet at the time, crushing everything Puffy, Biggie, and Bad Boy had built up since Pac got shot the first time in New York.
All of y'all motherfuckers, you die slow, motherfucker. My fofo make sure all y'all kids don't grow.
Puffy was scared to death after Tupac made those threats on Hit 'Em Up, especially the part about him killing their kids, knowing that his baby mama, Misa Hylton, has a relationship with Suge, cause she would always bring Diddy's son to LA every time Suge flew her out. Faith and Biggie had a baby on the way too, and he also had a daughter, which Tupac helped to support. And Pac was now saying, "Ma fofo, make sure all your kids don't grow." Nobody had crossed that line yet. It was unheard of for rappers to threaten to kill babies, and Pac was really out of control at the time. He scared Puffy to death when they met at the Soul Train Awards, and that's why he supposedly got in touch with Keefe D and wanted him to take care of them before they do anything stupid. Cause even on the song, he was telling everyone to not come to Cali.
Out here in California, and we warn you, we'll bomb on you, motherfucker. We do our job.
Counting loot. I got banks to rob, convertible sobs. I'm married to the mob.
You think you mob, and we the motherfucker mob.
He also gave a shout out to Suge's gang, the Mob Piru, which Pac wanted to join. They had the Bloods behind them, ready to go at the people from Bad Boy the moment they come to LA. Pac ends the song by mentioning the record sales of his last album, bragging about outselling everybody.
Fuck 'em, we bad boy killers.
4 days later, on April 23rd, he recorded the song Made N-Words, in which he's also taking jabs at Biggie.
Call me a bad boy killer, murder motherfucker. Daily know the fans trail me, so my alias Machiavelli.
This song contains physical threats against Biggie's daughter, who was only 2 years old at the time, and also against Biggie's wife Faith Evans. Pac was engaged to the daughter of Quincy Jones, Kidada Jones, and he was afraid that Biggie might start dissing Kidada in response to him dropping Hit 'Em Up and bragging about sleeping with his wife. So that's why he made it clear that nobody can do to Kidada what he did to Faith, that there'll be severe consequences.
This the daughter and I kidnap your daughter. Kill your wife and hit the funeral. We'll tell you just who gave the order.
So Pac was ready to kidnap Biggie's daughter and kill his wife Faith Evans. And he promised him that he'll attend her funeral just to tell Biggie that it was him who put out the hit on her. Now that is even worse than what he said on Hit 'Em Up.
Yo, Piggy, man, we got it going on, baby. It's on and cracking, man. He's gone, baby. You the man, you the man. Champagne, caviar, dreams from now on, baby. Plats, baby, straight plats, homie. Baby, baby. That's right. We on and cracking from now on, man. You know what I'm saying?
On April 28th, Tupac and Snoop released a music video for two of America's Most Wanted. The intro features two characters named Piggy and Buffy, who, as you can probably guess, were supposed to depict Puffy and Biggie. In the video, they were accused of setting up Tupac, who miraculously survived the shooting and came back to confront them. Piggy and Buffy have a chat about finally having eliminated Tupac, saying that they have no obstacles in their way now. That's when Tupac stepped into the office like Tony Montana in the movie Scarface. He confronted them and made them beg for their lives, telling Biggie that he won't kill him, as they were once homeboys.
It's a lying piece of shit.
Pop, please don't kill him. It was Buff's idea. No, man. I'm just a rapper, man. Please don't take me out the game.
I ain't gonna kill you. We was homeboys once, Pig. Once we homeboys, we always homeboys. Even if you is a fat phone.
But they got killed regardless. So this raises the question: did Pac order the killing of Stretch like he did in the music video with Buffy and Piggy, or was it done just for entertainment? To recreate that iconic scene from the movie Scarface where Tony tells his friend Manny to shoot Frank. Pac saw me big psych, then shoots them off screen. This video dropped right after the Soul Train Awards where they drew the guns on each other, and Puffy was running for his life. So seeing a music video of Pac letting people shoot him, especially after the Quad Studio shooting in New York and after the shooting with Snoop at the New York video set, must have had an impact on him. It most likely added another reason for Puffy to assume that they were really trying to hurt or even kill them, for all the things they blamed him for, like the murder of Suge's friend Big Jake, for example. So Puffy most likely didn't see this video as a funny Scarface parody, but more as a threat and something that may happen in the near future if he's uncareful. But after the release of that video, it appeared as if Death Row might be starting to chill. At a mid-May East-West Rap Summit in Philadelphia, set up by Dr. Benjamin Chavez to help defuse the situation, Suge avoided any negative comments about Puffy, who did not attend because there was too much hype around the event, according to Puffy himself. There's nothing between Death Row and Bad Boy, or me and Puffy, Suge said. Death Row sells volume, so how could Puffy be a threat to me? Or Bad Boy be a threat to Death Row? But around that same time, Pac did an interview with Hot 97 host Angie Martinez and supposedly lashed out on Biggie, Diddy, Andre Harrell, and everyone who was on his radar at the time. A 2-hour interview that was supposedly too controversial to be released. Hot 97 is a New York radio station, so there was a lot of pressure on Angie Martinez for even giving Tupac a platform and letting him diss the East Coast in an interview which, according to her and everyone else, would have gotten people killed and Pac locked up. Biggie and Diddy were mad at her for reaching out to him, and Angie didn't want to lose her job. Plus, she was convinced that releasing the interview would do more harm than good, so she ended up not putting it out. Puffy's ex-bodyguard Gene Deal said that Puffy heard the interview and made Angie Martinez not release it, as according to him, it would expose him.
The East Coast, West Coast thing is a musical thing. That's separate. That's a whole thing separate to itself. That's a musical thing. When we have been beefing about whose music is better or which is this or which is that from the beginning. It has because I'm like a lightning rod because I'm attacking New York's finest. They're self-proclaimed king of New York. You know what I mean? I'm attacking them. So because nobody's separating themselves from him, they still talking about how raw. Yes, they still talking about how raw he is and woo woo woo. He's a representative. He represents New York. There are a lot. Every time it benefits New York, he represents New York. When it don't benefit New York, now he's just another rapper. But y'all let him wear y'all colors. You let him shout y'all out. When Biggie came out here, he screamed out, "Brooklyn's in the house." We don't beef and say, "Why are you starting a war?" Why is everybody when I say West Side, it hurt people feeling?
You know what it is? It's New York's visualizing your camp, which to them is Death Row, which is Dogg Pound, which is Snoop, and which is that whole thing. And it was all one time. The New York video came out, brothers was stepping on cars in New York, stepping on, on New York like they owned it. Boom, you come out, next video, West.
What about the video? Yes, to me, it is the best coast. And everybody in New York feel like that too. That's why they come out here and party, man. Why is everybody acting like, I didn't say, for me to say Cali is the West Coast, I never said New York ain't shit. I never said New York is the worst coast. I just said where I'm from is the best coast. Why is that offending people?
On May 19th, Pac did an interview with Vibe magazine where he talked about his relationship with Puffy and Biggie, saying that it was never a beef, just a difference in opinions.
It was never a beef, it's only a difference in opinion. My homeboy Suge gave me the best advice I could ever get from anybody. He said, when people ask him if he's beefing with Bad Boy, with Puffy, he says like me going to a playground and picking on a little kid.
Right.
He also responded to the accusations from critics saying that Pac started to have a problem with Biggie once he became famous and started to make some money. That he got jealous while he was in prison, seeing him get all the respect from the game, all the awards, all the plaques, the support and promotion he got from the media, treating Biggie like the king of rap while at the same time trying to destroy Tupac's image. But for Pac, it's all about respect, which Biggie supposedly didn't give him.
That's like me being mad at my little brother because he getting cash now. I'm not mad at that. I'm just mad at my little brother when he don't respect me. Yeah. Now, when you don't respect me, I'm going to spank your ass. I don't give a fuck how rich you got on the block. I'm your big brother. I will break your big ass down.
He also made clear why he felt disrespected and not appreciated, saying that Biggie is not a bad person. He was supposedly just corrupted and blinded by money, to the point where he forgot about the people who helped him to get all the way to the top.
And I feel as though he wronged you. You got out of hand and you wronged me. You got seduced by the power, not because he's an evil person, but because money is evil if it's not handled right. If you lose your composure, you could do anything. And he got stronger than love, and they weren't supposed to do.
Pac was disappointed in Biggie for not trying to help him find the people who were responsible for the Quad Studio shooting. He explained how he personally would have handled the situation if Biggie was the one that got shot, saying that he would have tried to find out who did it and then help to arrange a meeting between Biggie and that person. That's what Pac expected from him. Cause there was a similar incident in Las Vegas at the Club 662, where the Wu-Tang Clan was chilling in the VIP section, drinking and partying, until a fight broke out between RZA and the group OFTB, which at the time was signed to Death Row, and they beat up RZA pretty badly. They also snatched his chain, similar to how Pac was robbed in New York but without the involvement of guns. Pac actually got RZA's chain back and offered him to meet the people who were responsible for it, so that they can talk it out like men or even have a one-on-one fight if that's what he wants. But RZA just wanted his chain back and everything was good.
Study how when Wu-Tang got their chain snatched at 6'6" Deuce, I not only found who did it, but gave them the message that if they want to see the niggas that did it, they can see them. That's all I ask for. That's all I ask for. If you're going to act like you a gangster or a G or the king of New York, I'm going to expect that. And when you don't come through, then I'm going to crush your empire. And that's what it's time for.
Then he gets asked if he thinks that Puffy was involved in the Quad Studio shooting, to which Pac responds that he has proof for it, which is not for the world to know about. He doesn't want to slander their names like they did in the Vibe magazine, where they made him sound like a drama queen.
Only they can answer that question. I have my own opinion, but I wouldn't slander their name like they did mine. I believe so. I do believe so. I have proof, things that I can say that will back up my claim, but this is not for the world to know about. You know what I mean? It's between me and him, and only he knows.
Pac also talks about dethroning Biggie in just 2 months, saying that nobody in hip-hop can come close to him success-wise, with him selling 5 million records in just 2 months, while Biggie, as the King of New York, only sold 2 million in over a year. And this was just the beginning.
I sold 5 million in 2 months. Biggie album been out 2 years. He's barely touching 2 million. Still had 50 remixes, 1,000. He got everybody in New York in his videos and still barely touching 2 million. I've been out 2 months. My shit sold 5 million with 2 videos out. I'm just starting. These niggas can't touch us. They can't.
2 days later, on May 21st, Biggie, the Lox, Diddy, and the rest of the Bad Boy family were at the video shoot for the Kissin' You Oh Honey remix. This was also Biggie's 24th birthday, the last birthday he ever had. According to Jadakiss and Little C's, somebody brought Biggie a bootleg version of Hit 'Em Up before it was officially released. The people from Death Row leaked the song on purpose and made sure that Biggie got a copy of it on his birthday to give him the surprise of his life, similar to how Pac was surprised when they dropped Who Shot Ya exactly a week after he went to prison. Biggie was having a great time at the set, but the mood suddenly changed when they showed him the cassette. They put it in the cassette player of the Mercedes-Benz and blasted it on full volume, listening to it together. So Biggie heard the most disrespectful diss track in history while he was in the middle of celebrating his birthday. And now he's getting insulted in front of his family and friends, with a beat that's using the same sample as the Get Money remix. So now they finally understood that the beat Faith was talking about when she came back to New York was meant for the Biggie diss track Hit 'Em Up. Biggie understood in that moment that Pac had the audacity to make his wife listen to a beat on which he and Faith would later get insulted on. They stopped shooting the video and gathered to talk about what to do next. Biggie played it off cool and tried to act like the song didn't bother him. He supposedly only got mad that Pac dissed Lil' Kim and Lil' C's. Jadakiss from the Lox was really impressed by Biggie's cold reaction. Everybody supposedly felt hurt except Biggie. He seemed completely unbothered. But according to Lance Unrivera, the people at the video shoot were really upset about it. It ruined everybody's mood. He also said that Biggie, quote-unquote, cried like a baby shortly after hearing the song, most likely when they were talking in private, and not in front of all those people. Lance was one of Biggie's closest homies. He became part of his clique, The Commission, and wanted to motivate everybody to record a response record and shoot a music video the next day. But Biggie didn't want to do that. What a lot of people don't know is that the beef with Tupac really got to Biggie's head. It really bothered him, to the point that according to Puffy, he had writer's block for 6 to 7 months, which he only overcame after Pac's death.
You've been writing this song for like 30 days now.
So it should be kind of hard, you know what I'm saying? I got a lot of stuff on your mind, you know what I'm saying?
You've been writing this song for like 30 motherfucking days. There ain't no excuse for that. But too much balling and enjoying itself, you know.
Really got nothing to do with that, man.
It's called writer's block.
The whole time, Puffy made it seem like Pac's constant disrespect towards Bad Boy didn't bother them. But Big was definitely hurt by it. And Puffy had to constantly motivate him to continue, saying that they should just ignore them and continue dropping hits.
Don't let these motherfuckers fuck your shit up, dog. I don't give a fuck who it is. Don't let them fuck your paper up, man. Please, Big. Focus your mind, man. Do your albums. Make them hot joints, man. Fuck these niggas, man. Fuck these niggas, man.
At the time, Biggie wouldn't even write lyrics using a pen and paper. He would do everything in his head, and then spit it off the dome without having to read it off a notepad. But he couldn't concentrate and it messed up his writing process. His head was filled with doubts, anger, confusion, and regret. He started believing all the rumors about Faith sleeping with Pac. It became harder and harder for him to think of song concepts. And according to Puffy, they wanted to focus on other artists on Bad Boy first, like for example The Lox and Mace, letting them work on their albums and then doing Big's album afterwards. Big at that point even wanted Lil C's and Lil Kim to drop their albums before him, even though the whole world was patiently waiting for the King of New York to finally drop his long-awaited sophomore album. People on the East Coast were tired of the West Coast pushing them around, and Big had been silent the whole time. He needed some time to clear his thoughts. But Pac wouldn't give him that, as he would constantly take jabs at him like once every week. Every time Biggie turned on the radio or the TV, Pac was there trying to destroy everything he worked for, to the point where Big couldn't even focus on the music without constantly being reminded of the drama, which Biggie never even wanted as he saw Pac as his homie. He didn't even let him catch his breath. It really bothered him. Big knew that if he ever responded to it, there would be no coming back or a way to fix it. Somebody would have gotten hurt, cause they both were surrounded by gangsters and killers. So the next time the two would meet each other like at the Soul Train Awards, somebody definitely would have gotten hurt. It was already impossible for them to travel and tour around the US without having to worry about physical violence. All Biggie wanted to do was record music and make money.
I can't really listen to that hip hop too much, man, because they be talking garbage, man. Some MCs is alright, but a lot of them are funny, man. They got that portrayal of being, first they tough, then something happened to them, they turn to God. Then when everything's cool, they tough again. I don't understand it. It's just real confusing to me. So I just said, I'm just gonna listen to me and dream out here and some slow jams, because I can't deal with these characters.
Biggie and Lil C's appeared on Yo MTV Raps and sent shots at Pac, saying that he's getting tired of him acting tough in one moment and then turn into God in the next. He also talked about Pac rapping about luxury brands like Versace, saying that he regrets setting that trend and making that cool in hip-hop, implying that he was the one who did it first, before Tupac, and that Pac just copied him, saying that he sucked the fun out of it and that it's not cool anymore.
And if I hear one more rapper talk about Versace, leave it alone. It's over, y'all. It's no more. It's finished. I started it and I'm ending it. It's over.
This is interesting because Pac always claimed the exact opposite, saying that it was actually him who put Biggie onto all these luxury brands. That it was him who bought him his first Rolex, told him how to dress and present himself, as he didn't have the player image before becoming famous. Pac was wearing designer clothes before Biggie, but Big indeed took it to the next level while Pac was in prison. It's interesting how they both accused each other of biting the whole fashion thing. They both wanted their credit. Biggie also promoted his upcoming album Life After Death, on which he promised to respond to all the disrespect from Death Row.
My man Leo De Janeiro dropping the hottest album for the summer, Sleep If Y'all Want, and of course Life After Death. All the questions, everything you always want to know, what's going on with the situations between me and anybody else that got problems with me, cop that album and get all your answers. To all my enemies, mwah, one love.
On June 3rd, Pac and the Outlaws then filmed the video to Hit 'Em Up, featuring the same impersonations of Biggie and Puffy as in the video for two of America's Most Wanted, where Pac orders to kill them. The video has a white background just like the Bad Boy music video for the Flavor in Your Ear remix, with Biggie, Craig Mack, LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes and Rampage. This time we also have an actress for the Junior Mafia member Lil Kim. Pac is yelling into Piggy's ear, yelling insults at him and belittling him, without Piggy being able to do anything about it. Piggy and Lil Kim are actually vibing to the beat, as if they're enjoying it. Pac then pulls down Lil Kim's wig, dances in front of Piggy as if the two are fooling around like buddies. They also try to make Buffy look as feminine and awkward as possible, This is definitely one of the greatest music videos in hip-hop history, and they more or less did a part 2 to it a day later on June 4th. The same day Hit 'Em Up officially came out and changed the rap game forever. Cause on the second day they filmed the music video to Made N-Words, featuring the same actors for Biggie and Puffy. But this time they tried to make it as comedic as possible, with Piggy not being able to control his hunger and Buffy being a complete weirdo.
Man, these West Coast people ain't shit. You know what I'm saying, man? I mean, I'm having millions, man. You see what I'm driving, man, you know?
Well, let's get something to eat, man.
But we can't get nothing to eat right now. We got business here.
Well, what's that smell, man? It smell like some ribs or something, man.
I farted, all right?
Hey, man, I just ate all them donuts, man. I'm hungry, man. Let's go get a chicken or something, a pizza.
We cannot stop right now, Biggie. I'm sorry. We can't, okay?
Man, I'm hungry, though, Buff. Man, let's stop right here, man, at the burger joint. Man, let me get something to eat.
We done passed it, all right?
Damn, I'm hungry as hell, Buff. Man, let's stop and get something, man.
I told you we gonna stop and get something to eat. I'm trying to tell you about these West Coast motherfuckers. They ain't shit. That peanut head Tupac with his big old boat on top of it.
Pac's outlaws attach a GPS device onto Buffy's car and follow them to a place where Piggy is doing a drug deal. The outlaws then pull up and shoot up the place. Probably the best scene of the entire music video is Piggy opening his desk drawer in panic after Pac's outlaws come in and start shooting. We then see a drawer full of weapons, and instead of reaching for his gun to defend himself, Piggy reaches for food. He then crawls out the back door to escape, but eventually gets shot and killed. And unfortunately, Biggie would meet the same fate a couple months later.
Don't fall asleep, nigga. Everybody dies, nigga. Everybody dies. We all gotta go, nigga. We all gotta go. Go to sleep, nigga. Go to sleep. Close your motherfucking eyes. We all gotta die. Fuck them all. Fuck them all. West Side. MOB, nigga.